Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's board meeting, Tuesday, June 6th, 2023. Ms. Heinrich, would you please give us a roll call?
Yes. Ms. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Weems?
Here.
Ms. Fox?
Here.
Mr. Rich?
Here.
Dr. Blau?
I am here.
I myself am here. Mr. Walker is absent.
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum.
All right. Will all of our retiring teachers and other staff members please stand and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Yes, Ms. Heinrich.
I move that the agenda for the regular meeting Board of Education. I move that the agenda for the regular meeting of the Board of Education Tuesday, June 6th be approved as presented.
Support. Motion by Ms. Heinrich, supported by Ms. Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion passes. We have several recognitions this evening. Dr. Delgado, would you like to do the honors?
Thank you, Dr. Blau, and we will start with the Michigan School Business Officials 2023 Meridian Award of Excellence. Mr. John Barth, our wonderful Director of Facilities, is being recognized by the MSBO. Gentlemen, take it away.
Great, thank you. I'm Brian Marcel. I'm the Associate Superintendent at the Washtenaw Intermediate School District. And tonight I'm here representing the Michigan School Business Officials Board of Trustees. And with me is my colleague Scott, which he'll introduce himself when he comes up here. But we just want to thank you for allowing us to be on your agenda at this exciting night, and we promise not to take too much time because you have more important things to do. But we are here, as Mr. Delgado said, to do the award for the Meridian Award of Excellence. And a little background on Michigan School Business Officials, if you aren't aware of our organization. We have more than 3,900 members in the state of Michigan who are employed in areas of school business management, which could be finance, facilities, transportation, all those kind of support areas, and provide services throughout the school industry in the state. The Michigan School Business Officials is the only statewide association in Michigan devoted to school business. And the purpose of this award that we're here to present tonight, it's a special recognition award acknowledging successful practices in all areas of school management and education. And recipients, how the election or how the award is chosen, it's done by a selection committee representing one person from the board, who happened to be me this year, an ISD representative, and 3 K-12 representatives. And the selection is based on the degree to which the entry promotes and enhances the overall effective operation of a school district, and whether that thing can be replicated in another school district. Along with the award, there is a check for $500 to a scholarship fund for Farmington schools as well. And with that, I'll turn it over to Scott.
Good evening, and I thank you as well. So I'm Scott Little. I'm Associate Executive Director at MSBO. I've been in this role for 23 years. The areas that I work with primarily in our districts around the state are facilities, transportation, and food service. So I've seen many facilities operations and talked to many of them. I've followed John around the state as he's moved from various districts. Winning the Meridian Award is not a stranger to John. This is his 5th one.
Oh, wow.
And
wow.
So this is my privilege to award him the 2nd time, for me anyway. And what this is the hybrid custodial program that all of you, I think, are aware of, that John spearheaded in an effort to get higher quality cleaning and ownership within the system, and that's, we had lots of privatization 15 years ago, and a lot of districts now are struggling to make that work, as everybody's looking for employees and that sort of thing. So John's program should benefit the school, the district, the buildings are cleaner, and I just, one of the other things that we like about the Meridian Award is that it should be replicable. And so John has already presented once or twice on his program and to very interested facilities directors from around the state. So everybody's really looking at this program and figuring out if it works for them to model it. So having said all that, it's my privilege to give John this very cool, you can wipe my fingerprints off later. So don't let those get in the system anywhere. And then there's the check for the thing. So congratulations, John.
Don't go anywhere. I want to say something, if it's okay. I've had the privilege of knowing Mr. Barth for a very long time. When I worked over at Farmington Central as a hall monitor, John was a very humbled man with Jim Pierce. It was nothing when we were going through the transition of the custodians being privatized. John was one of those that came in, didn't hide behind a desk. He came to our school with a brown paper bag, a toilet brush, and a plunger. And he promised that he would clean and he would keep our schools clean. We got a man that stands here that, although there's a shortage around the country with teachers, custodians, bus drivers, hall monitors, lunch people, John is that guy. And I am honored to know you, John Barth. And, I guess he decided to not to wear that cashmere coat, but John is a really good guy, and I'm very proud to work with you in this district. Thank you.
Yeah, I also just wanted to mention or say thank you and congratulations to John and his wife and Jonathan and Olivia, who are somewhere here, his family, who have come to congratulate him as well. Thank you for coming. John, I just really appreciate everything that you do for our district and the innovative solutions that you come up with to problems. It's obvious you really care about the work here. I've never seen someone so excited about concrete and floors and all of that. I mean, you literally light up the room as you're, walking us through. Just thank you for everything that you do. You really deserve it. You deserve this recognition.
Okay, next up, we can invite to the podium Ms. Diane Bauman, our wonderful Director of School Community Relations and Pupil Accounting, to present the Judy White-Ora Teaching with Heart and Soul Award.
Good evening. It is my absolute pleasure to be here tonight to introduce our 2023 Judy White-Ora Teaching with Heart and Soul Award winner, that's a mouthful, Kimmi Dukes from Farmington High School. Come on down. So the Teaching with Heart and Soul Award was created in honor of a former Assistant Superintendent, Judy White-Ora, who unfortunately passed away in 2006. But Judy really believed in investing in other people and relationships. And during her years in education, she developed a pledge for teachers. The pledge reads as follows: "Today, I will respect the uniqueness of all children. I will ignite the joy of learning. I will listen to their voices. I will put human connections first. Encourage the spirit and let them let their light shine, and create a caring learning community." And Kimmi Dukes exemplifies that. So Kimmi had many nominators, ranging from colleagues to former and current students. She was nominated for her caring nature and dedication to making connections with each of her students. She's been with Farmington Public Schools for 23 years. We don't want to see you with the retirees anytime soon. But she worked at Harrison High School for 19 years before moving to Farmington High School for the last 4. And many of her years were spent as the department head, instructional lead for the art department. Kimmi is sure to make connections with each student in many ways, as every student expresses their art differently. One of Kimmi's best attributes is her ability to encourage each student and let their light shine. So to outline Kimmi in words would never fully encapsulate her dedication to students. She is supportive, encouraging, and is constantly pushing students in the right direction. So Kimmi, we are so happy that you are going to be receiving this award. So this is for you. And we have this plaque. And this hangs in central office. But if we have your name on it already, so congratulations.
Oh, yes.
Kimmi? That's okay. First, I'd like to say, could you sit on that stool, because I don't want you to get contagious, and contagious with all these ribbons with the flowers on it. We don't want you leaving, okay? So stay right there, because everybody got one of them home. Oh, I'm just joking. All jokes aside, I have the honor and privilege, and I think maybe Miss Weems and Miss Fox may have known her as well, is Judy White. Judy White was a phenomenal assistant superintendent. And a lot of people don't realize your assistant superintendents hold a lot of weight and they do a whole lot of stuff, as well as our superintendents. But Judy was awesome, and to get this award, because it tore this community up when Judy passed away. And so it's an honor to see someone so deserving to receive this. So don't put one of them flowers on next year, but congratulations, and I wish you the most success in keeping up doing what you're doing to receive these kind of awards. Not many people have ever received the Judy White Award, so, and Judy is still missed. So thank you, Kimmi, for all the work that you do.
Not to belabor any points, but I am aware of all of the great work that Ms. Dukes has done across the district, especially over the 19 years that she was at Harrison High School, including a beautiful story about, this is how it happened countless times, but I'm aware of a student who was not particularly enthused with school, but as a result of Mrs. Dukes actually, paying attention and identifying an interest in this student totally changed their life, totally changed their attitude. And those are the kinds of people that I'm so proud that we have in the room and in Mrs. Dukes. So congratulations on this award.
Okay, and next up, I'd like to invite our Assistant Superintendent of Talent Development, Mr. Brad Paddock, to talk to us about a couple of employee retirements tonight.
Good evening, Dr. Delgado and the Board of Education. Thank you for this opportunity this evening to honor our wonderful retirees. For the audience members that may not know me, my name is Brad Paddock, and I am the Assistant Superintendent of Talent Development here in Farmington Public Schools. It is a privilege to assist in this culminating event for our retirees in attendance this evening. To all of our retirees that will soon be recognized, today marks a significant milestone in your journey as you transition into a well-deserved retirement, and I thank you for being here this evening to be recognized publicly. After years of dedication, passion, and unwavering commitment to Farmington Public Schools, You have positively impacted the lives of countless students and helped shape the future of our society as our students live into the profile of a lifelong learner. As you embark on this new chapter, on behalf of all central office administrators, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude and admiration for your extraordinary service in public education. Our board meeting recognition this evening will honor 32 retirees. Between our reception this evening and building-wide celebrations that are taking place throughout the district in the past and in the future days, over 70 retirees will have been recognized this school year in one way or another, celebrating and totaling over 1,500 years of combined service out of 70 retirees. As an order of operation, when the speaking begins, the retirees being recognized will be standing off here to the right-hand side of the lectern as their names are read and a few words of appreciation are shared by our leaders. Once the individual school is completed, the retirees should approach the Board of Education, who in just a few minutes will be standing here in the front to congratulate all individuals. Family members, this is also a great time to come forward and try to take a photo opportunity as the Board of Education greets our retirees. As the retirees exit the front of the room, please continue along the back wall there, along the side wall. We have a couple of wonderful parting gifts. One goodie that's a treat, a cookie treat, and then of course we have a Farmington purple customized luggage tag for your next adventure that awaits you. Thanks to our wonderful school community relations department. So to start this evening's recognition, I would ask that Dr. Hurley, Mr. Shelton, and Mr. Fifield to please come forward to line up along the wall behind me. Those retirees that are connected to Central, Farmington High School, and North High School, I ask you to please come forward. While at the same time, I would ask Superintendent Delgado and the Board of Education to please come forward and form a greeting line in front of the tables to greet and congratulate our retirees. Okay. Okay, here's your reminder. Okay, at this time, I would introduce Dr. Hurley.
All right. Good evening. Mary Gunther once stated, once you see validation for your life's work and dedication, it is a beautiful day. Today is a beautiful day for Denise Catwell. She has had over 30 years of servicing and collaborating with students, parents, and other educational professionals. She has positively influenced and impacted Farmington Public Schools community. You will be truly missed, and I want to personally thank you for your assistance in developing my understanding of Farmington Central CTE programming, and I promise you that I am committed to enhancing our programs to include the suggestions we discussed with our NAF partners and school counselor. Thank you, Ms. Catwell. Appreciate you. I would like to introduce now Mr. Tom Shelton, who will be presenting Farmington High School.
Thank you, Dr. Hurley. My name is Tom Shelton. I am the Director of School Safety and Athletics for the district. Prior to the current school year, I was principal of Farmington High School, and Principal Chris Musner sends her regrets. She is with 600 high school seniors celebrating prom tonight, and so I volunteered to stand up in her stead and recognize some volunteers from, staff from Farmington High School. So Farmington High School staff, if you could step forward, please. So it's a great pleasure for me to talk individually for just a couple seconds about these three individuals, all of whom I greatly enjoyed working with during my time at Farmington High School. The first I'd like to mention is Linda Furshman. Linda is a school psychologist at Farmington and was not there when I first came to Farmington, but joined along the way. And I will always appreciate Linda for her expertise in evaluation and being a collaborative team member, working closely with other members of our staff, and always having an open mind and a problem-solving mindset. So I really enjoyed working with you, and I wish you all the best. Thank you. Next, we have the absolutely amazing and phenomenal Kathy Kornke. Kathy is secretary in the counseling office at Farmington High School, probably one of the first people that I met at Farmington High School when I showed up for an interview some odd years ago. And Kathy is an integral member of that office. In particular, I think about pandemic times when everything was topsy-turvy, and we were trying to figure out which end was up. Kathy always had her head in the game and was always there to help us problem solve through things. As principal, anytime I was working on a project where I needed my I's dotted, my T's crossed, Kathy was my woman, because she has that eye for detail. Not just that, she cares about kids. And so Kathy, thank you. I've really enjoyed working with you, and I wish you the best of luck. Finally, we have Pete Finn, and you can see from Pete's years of service, Pete has dedicated himself to Farmington High School, both in teaching physics, and in particular in my new role as Director of Athletics, I've gotten to know Pete in a slightly different role as a varsity baseball coach at Farmington High School. And one of the things that I will always appreciate about Pete is Pete's always going to give me an honest answer, and he's going to say it to me like it is. And I greatly enjoyed working with Pete. I think everybody is going to miss you very much, and you're going to be missed. So congratulations, Pete. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Scott Fifield, who I believe is representing North Farmington High School this evening.
It was nice of Tanya Corbett to show up for emotional support for me. It's very nice of her. Good evening, everybody. It is my pleasure as assistant principal at North Farmington to talk about our Raider retirees. They're two outstanding educators, and I love the fact that I get to recognize them tonight as they leave our Raider family with 20 plus years in education. Lynn Maher. Lynn is a shining example of what students and families would look for in a school counselor for their child. She is student-centered and involved in many of the great activities that our counseling department provides for students. She also leads by example in her department and is always willing to help any Raider staff member in need. I even bought Lynn a car last year when she was helping me with my first year as AP. I did, didn't I? Right? Yeah. Lynn informed me that her dream car was a Porsche, and I got her a Matchbox car. Next is Phyllis Mulroy. Words can't express what she has meant to the special education department at North Farmington High School. From being a great teacher of emotionally impaired students to helping guide the special ed staff in the building as a teacher consultant. She will be missed. Phyllis also helped mold several great student athletes along the way as part of the Raider girls basketball program and softball teams. Lynn and Phyllis, you will be deeply missed by Raider Nation, but I hope your retirement brings you happiness.
Thank you. At this time, I would ask Mrs. Kaminsky and Mr. Beasley to please come forward, along with retirees connected to Warner and STEAM, to gather along this wall behind me.
Dave brought flowers, so you know what? You'll have a flower tomorrow. We don't do flowers. Okay, I'll get started for Warner Middle School. I've got 6 retirees this year, 4 that are here this evening, all 3 secretaries, and a few of a counselor and 2 of our teachers. The 4 that are here tonight have over 120 years, all in Farmington Public Schools. Pretty unique to say that they have done their entire careers there, and the years that they have are incredible. I double-checked their numbers with them today. So I'm going to start with Laura Galloway, who's our counseling secretary, 34 years. She has serviced North Farmington, Harrison, Central. She did a little bit at East, and then she's been with us for several years at Warner. Our staff, we laugh often that we make comments that we're all replaceable. I don't know. And I'm not really sure where we're going to go with this replacement, but Laura brings such a wealth of knowledge to a school, but not only to the school, but to Farmington. She's often the go-to for secretaries around the school district. A lot of district personnel will say, hey, Laura, we need your help with this, with a new staff member. Laura is above and beyond top quality I've ever worked with. And I love you so much, and I'm so, so happy for you. She is going to go on a great journey with her beautiful family, and you are hard to replace. So thank you for everything you've done for Farmington and for Warner. Look at this picture. Okay, so there's our graduate, Steve Copeland. And he also dressed the part tonight. He's got his Dunkel green on and his purple Warner tie. And his socks. So Steve has also done 30 years in Farmington Public Schools, started at Farmington High School, did a long time at Dunkel, and now has been with us at Warner for the last 7 years. Steve's, not only as a school leader, I can also speak as a parent, who both my children had him. He has received an enormous amount of awards, if you've ever followed Steve Copeland. There was a teaching team award back at Dunkel, to he received one of the most prestigious awards you can receive in the country, the Milken Teaching Award, which I believe you receive a $25,000 stipend, and it's the Oscars for teachers. It's a unique thing, and that we have somebody in Farmington that received that award, let alone at our own building. That's Steve. Steve is also up right now for a presidential award for excellence in math and science that we will hear about. He's been recognized by the state of Michigan this year for that nomination. Steve brings a whole different level of teaching that is very unique to see, and pushes himself, even in this last year of retirement. You wouldn't think that he's retiring. He could still keep going. He could still keep doing this. And Steve, I admire so much of you. You bring such a quality to our building, not only as a teacher, but as a staff member and a mentor to staff. So we love you, and you are also very difficult to replace. So thank you for all you've done. Wow, look at this number. Okay. Elisa Maher, 35 years in Farmington Public Schools. Elisa started her career as a teacher. She was at Wood Creek, she was at Gill. Then she went on to do counseling for Beachview, Harrison, East, Farmington Central, and then been with us for a while now at Warner. Elisa embodies somebody that just gets kids, adults, and education, and all with a sense of humor. There's nobody that's more real that I can be more real with than Elisa Maher. She understands how to communicate to people. She understands what people need before they realize what they need. And Elisa, I adore you. I adore you, and I will miss you. Okay, and then our last one is John Von Tracek. You better get tears from me too, right? I gotta keep up with that. Okay, so John has been in Farmington Public Schools this entire time as a teacher at Gill, a teacher at Dunkel. Oh, thank you, Terry. I'm good. I think I'm good. You don't think so? And then now at Warner, we came together, this whole crew and I did, we all came together almost 8 years ago. John did a sprinkle, as we like to call it, of administration. He did that years back in elementary, and then stepped up with me 2 years ago when our staff was really dealing with a crisis, and John, within hours, did some reflection on a decision and called his mother and called me and made a decision to step up, and I will never forget what he brought to our team. But he does that every day. The quality, people know Mr. V in the community. And now he's teaching his former kids and all that good stuff. And there's nobody that brings a spark like John does to a classroom. And quality person, if you don't know John, you're missing out. Get to know him if you don't know him yet. He's just amazing. And again, my fourth one, hard to replace. And I just adore and love John as well. And I wish him all the luck in enjoying his kids and celebrating all the next steps in his journey. So congratulations. And Mr. Beasley from STEAM.
All right, I have the distinct honor of talking about my former secretary, now our literacy parapro, Ellie Cuoco. She had 27 years in Farmington Public Schools. She graduated from OCC at 50. I know it's hard to believe that she's 50, but she did. She's got no specific plans except to spend time with her grandchildren, and whatever she does, the preamble will begin with fun. I got a couple quotes. This guy says, Ellie has been a mainstay in FPS and has been a lifesaver on more than one occasion. She was dedicated to serving the community to the best of her ability and always found the positive in every situation. Mr. Beasley said that about you. So, Elizabeth Haynick is next. Love it. So Elizabeth has, she put on her paper 27 plus years in education, 27 years in Farmington. She's a proud graduate of the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, Go Blue. In 1995, she earned her master's degree in early childhood from Oakland University. She listed 3 significant events she could recall from when she first started teaching, so some of us won't even know what this is. Major League Soccer became a thing. Mad cow disease was in the news. And Prince Charles and Princess Diana divorced. Her plans for retirement include momming, as she is the Groves High School wrestling team booster secretary, along with the 5th grade promotion co-chair at Bingham Farms Elementary. She plans to spend more time with her dad, friends, family, husband. I don't know why he's listed last. Why'd you do that? We'll talk. She's really excited to get her house organized and to start working out again every day. So I talked to Arjun and Perrin, and they said she is super helpful when we struggle with tough projects and made us feel welcome to this new school. She is kind, generous, and always looks out for her students, and she can be funny sometimes. Our next retiree is Sandy Laramie. 26 years in education, 24 and a half here in Farmington. She's a proud graduate of Madonna University and Marygrove, well, 2 classes shy of her master's, but we'll grandfather you in. You're good. She started, another Princess Diana. She started in 1997, the year Princess Diana was taken from the world. She plans to move up north to Rogers City, plant a big garden, read a lot, travel, and have adventures on their boat, Lil Toot. Lil Toot. All right. So I have a quote from her friend and teammate, Mr. Rabine. Thanks for the time, the listening, the hard work, and the memories. It's been a pleasure working with you and working through the tough parts of midlife along the way. I wish you all the best in your future endeavors, and I hope our little ships get to pass each other from time to time. We can sit back and remember, laugh, and be glad we did all that we did for those kids. Sandy Laramie. What the heck am I going to do next year? Jeez Louise. Shannon Lohr is next. Shannon Lohr. 30 total years in education, 23.3 here in Farmington. She earned her master's and her bachelor's from Oakland, and when she started teaching, Cold Hearted by Paula Abdul topped the Billboard charts. Who's Paula Abdul? I'm kidding. Shannon, her plans for retirement include travel, more use of their timeshares in Traverse City and Florida, along with spending time with her mom, working out, and playing golf. Yes. I give her a hard time because she doesn't play enough golf. Should be. And I spoke with Dominique and Ryan, and they said she loves purple and pink and tells good jokes. She also likes penguins and makes us feel special. She gives us candy when we are debit-free. She makes sure we feel safe and compliments us often. We have learned so much from her. Miss Lori. Oh boy. She has spent 25 years in education, all 25 right here in Farmington. She graduated from Adrian College, home of the Bulldogs. Having the opportunity to work in Farmington has been significant and special. I asked for something significant, and she said getting to work here is what she most lived for. Plans for retirement including taking care of her mother and spending countless hours with her grandchildren. Here's a quote for Lori. If Lori didn't acknowledge you as honey or sweetie, something was very wrong. Have you ever been to Steam and walked in? My first day, sweetie! Hi. Anyway, so Lori always made sure every position was covered in our building and that the students would have an adult in front of them to start their day. She is truly a jack of all trades. Her friendliness will be greatly missed in our front office. And that was from Miss Ellie. Lord. She just asked if she could come back. I said yes. Rescind. All right, Mrs. Prina, and that is correct. 32 years in education, 32 years here in Farmington. She has her undergraduate degree from Wayne and her master's from Oakland University, and she is a proud graduate of North Farmington High School a couple years ago. Her plans for retirement include volunteering in her community and spending more time with the newest addition to their family, Margot, a 1-year-old Labrador Retriever. Margot. So I talked to Ravina and Alina, and they said, Mrs. Prina makes learning fun and she cares deeply about her students. She says that everything is always peachy keen. It makes us laugh often. We're going to miss her so much and hope she comes back to visit us. Oh, Jackie. All right, Miss Jackie Wong, 25 years in education, 20 of them here in Farmington. She is a proud graduate of York University in Toronto and earned her master's degree from Madonna. When she began teaching, the World Wide Web was launched and Microsoft.com went online. That's a couple years ago. In retirement, Jackie plans to travel, spend time with family and friends, along with developing her hobbies. And the quote, she has 2 quotes in here. One from Miss Shillingford, her teammate, and Miss Johnson, her other teammate. She has been an amazing mentor. She is passionate about making her students feel welcome and excited about learning. She is committed to our school community and attends events here on a regular basis. That was from Danielle Johnson. And Pam, her other teammate, said, Jackie is one of the first teachers here at FSA and one of the last to leave. She works diligently to make her lessons in classroom, make sure her lessons in classroom are ready for her students. Jackie gives all for her students and for FSA. And I don't know if anyone's keeping track, but that total, just in Farmington Public Schools, is 178.8 years that we're losing. That's a lot of dedication to one place, so very proud.
Thank you. At this time, I would ask Mrs. Chikella, Mr. Danziger, Mr. Kaufman, and Mrs. Henry to please come forward, along with retirees connected to early childhood, Gill, Hillside, and Longacre, and gather behind the wall alongside me.
All right, I think we're good to go. A little bit closer. All right. Here we go. I've been in denial all year about this, but now it's feeling really real. So I had to write all my words down to keep my emotions in check, so hopefully I get through all of this. For the past 24 years, Terry Schneider has been the heart of our early childhood programs as a science and media teacher. He's told thousands of stories during this time in only a way that he could. He was immersed in books and characters, always changing his voice, using props, making the students part of the story. Through this, he was able to capture the excitement for reading and the hearts of all the students. He showed up every day, so excited to show students what was in store for science that day. His love of learning was infectious. Anyone who has met Terry and seen the classroom he helped build during our construction process knows that he is passionate about children and learning. Terry's legacy is not only that of the love of reading and scientific thinking he instilled in children. His legacy for me is also about the culture he strived to create in our school community. Terry's excitement wasn't just for the work he did in the classroom. It was for the work to be done to create a positive school culture. All parents came to know him and would thank him for what he did for their children. They would seek him out at school events to talk, and they could quickly see that his positive demeanor that made their children love coming to his classroom. He took time to talk with families and build those relationships. He did this with staff as well. He was at the heart of creating school events that welcomed all students, programs, families. We would have no less than a few hundred people each year for our fall festival, which was the hallmark of the events that he would lead. He took time to talk to staff, to all of them, to get to know them and create not only positive collaborations in school, but lifelong friendships. He made sure staff came together to build relationships, whether it was his chocolate donuts, his morning music playing through the halls, a themed lunch or breakfast, or being silly stringed together or a pie in the face during reading month. He strived to get everybody involved and get everybody out of their comfort zones and out of their classrooms to come together as one school community that cared about and supported each other. At FECC, we are simply beat better because Terry was there, and I'm a better leader because of you. My heart is thankful for what you've given, heavy because I'll miss my partner and friend, but overjoyed knowing the happiness that awaits for you. Mr. Jeff Danziger, Director of Human Resources here for Chris Solomon for Gill Elementary.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Danziger from our district's Human Resources Department. Chris Solomon unfortunately was unable to be with us, but it is a pleasure and a privilege to be here on her behalf to recognize our retirees from Gill Elementary who have brought so much to our students and our families, and I say that from personal experience with both of them. These, by the way, I want to make sure to make clear, are Chris Solomon's beautiful words, so I echo them. Lily Suda is the epitome of grace and dignity. Her soft-spoken voice and gentle nature has been a calming presence in our students' lives. She's always gone above and beyond everything that she does at Gill, from staying late nights to volunteering and supporting staff and families. During her years with FPS, Lily served as a valued mentor to new EL paraprofessionals in the district. Her wisdom and knowledge has led to the next generation of caring paras in the service of our bilingual families. Mahatma Gandhi once said, "In a gentle way, you can shake the world." Lily, your gentle way surely shook Gill's world. We wish you joy on your next steps. Pam Wasco has been the heart of the Gill office for 15 plus years. There's not a parent, staff member, or student who's passed through the doors of Gill that would not remember Miss Pam fondly. The love and care she took of our Mustangs endears her to all who know her. She served numerous roles such as the new family welcoming committee, boo-boo fixer, magic ice lady, nurse, school mom, and trusted confidant. She did them all with her trademark smile and upbeat nature. Tani Brown said, "The greatest thing you will ever give to the world is your commitment to leave what you find in better condition than the way you found it." I can say with 100% certainty, Pam Wasco has left Gill Elementary in a far greater place than when she began. We will miss you dearly, Pam. Go ahead.
All right, good evening. I'm Rob Kaufman, the proud principal at Hillside Elementary, and I'm here to recognize Mrs. Kimberly Alverson, and she has 24 years in education. I got that mixed up again. 24 years, over 21 in Farmington Public Schools, and the last 11 at Hillside. the best thing I can tell you about Kim is that she's truly an inspiration to all of us. I think the fact that she has faced a lot of adversity, to say the least, and she definitely was always there late at night and in the weekends because she cared about kids. And one thing I can say is I never once, not once, heard her complain. She just had a great spirit and a great inspiration for all of the staff at Hillside. And we're really grateful for all that you did for kids. She came to me, this year and she said, we got to get this green team going again. And she just, again, took more time of her own to make sure that Hillside was taken care of in that way. And of course, much of the artwork you see around the room is another example of the dedication and commitment she makes for kids and instilling the love of art. And we really will miss you and wish you the very best in your retirement, Kim. Congratulations.
Good evening. My name is Rhonda Henry. I'm the principal at Longacre Elementary, and today I have the honor of recognizing 4 of our retirees at Longacre. Each one of them will be leaving an incredible legacy at Longacre, and we will miss them dearly. Miss Weems, I might need one of those tissues. First one is Wanda Bohannon. And Wanda, she's affectionately known as Wanda, has served Farmington Public Schools as a special education teacher and special education paraprofessional in grades K-8 for 14 years. We've had the privilege of having Wanda as our resource room teacher at Longacre for the last 8 years. Teaching is Wanda's second career, and anyone who has observed her working with students can really see that she has followed her passion when choosing the field of education. She is patient, a steady advocate for special needs students, and a friend to all. She also has beautiful handwriting, and every time we have a special event at Longacre, I enlist her to do the welcome sign, and I'm not quite sure what we're gonna do. Miss Bohannon won't miss her long commute, but she will miss the daily hugs from students and the friendships that she has made at Longacre. Her retirement plans include spending time with her granddaughters, volunteering at museums, and traveling. Wanda, I can't thank you enough for all your dedication to Longacre. All right. Lisa, yeah, I almost made it. Okay. Lisa Haskin has taught first grade, one second. First grade and kindergarten at Longacre for her entire 32 years in Farmington Public Schools. Lisa was also a student teacher at Longacre, so it's actually 32 and a half years. Lisa's students come back every year to thank her for her incredible influence that she's had on their lives. Last week, a former student of hers, who is now 22, stopped by to show his gratitude. Lisa has a plethora of teaching experience and skills, and I have coined her the historian of Longacre. She is a meticulous planner, has high expectations for herself and her first graders, and models a continuous growth mindset. Someone once said, "It's not how you start that's important, it's how you finish." Lisa embodies that quote because even in her last week of school, she still strives to do better for students. Lisa's best memories at Longacre include back-to-school picnics, spot summer send-off, the first day of school, the last day of school, seeing former students in the hall, making lasting connections with co-workers, students, and families, teaching first grade with Mrs. Godleski for 25 years, and hosting staff bonfires every fall. Her retirement plans include not getting up as early, having more freedom to do many wonderful things, volunteering, traveling, finding new hobbies, writing, spending more time with her family, her husband, Doug, who is here. Thank you, Lisa, for all your years of service, and best wishes in retirement. Next, I'd like to recognize Anna Kaufman. Anna Kaufman has taught kindergarten for 27 years, with her last 20 being at Longacre. She started out teaching PPI, pre-primary impaired students, at Fairview, and then went on to teach first grade at Alameda, and then kindergarten at Longacre. And she's been teaching at kindergarten at Longacre since we went from half day, I don't know if you remember that, half day kindergarten to full day kindergarten. Anna is known for transforming our youngest learners into independent readers, organizing her learning centers and classroom routines with tremendous attention to detail, and also her love for owls. Her classroom is outfitted with all different types of owls. Every single year, I walk in her room in September, and it takes a special person to teach kindergarten. And she says, just wait until March. They're going to be running the classroom. And it's always true. She has so many great memories at Longacre, including having her daughter Jillian go to school at Longacre while she was a teacher, meeting lifelong friends, and watching her students learn and grow throughout the years. Anna plans to travel yearly with her husband Bruce, who is here. They're going to Italy this September, so please send a postcard. And she looks forward to spending time with her grandkids and parents. Thank you, Anna, and congratulations. All right, and the last retiree. Susan Wank. Okay, Susan Wank, Sue, has been a dedicated school psychologist in FPS since 2002. She has spent the last 8 years of service at Longacre. In addition to being a school psychologist, she's been a SAPSI PBIS chair for 3 different schools. She headed a problem-solving team at Dunkel for 5 years when Alan Archer was principal. She served on the ICT team at Kenbrook, worked at Wood Creek Forest, Farmington High School, Kenbrook, Dunkel, and Longacre. I'm not sure if there's many more left. Sue is loved by all. She is a fierce advocate for ensuring all students are instructed in the least restrictive environment, wholeheartedly believes in educating the whole child, and has been instrumental in moving Longacre's school improvement reading efforts in the area of systematic phonics instruction forward. She is a trusted problem solver, an active listener, and a relationship healer. Her favorite memories from Longacre include starting up Rocket Readers, Word Nerds, being the equity leader of our community builder team, starting our first gardening club, working together to strengthen students' reading instruction, working with our wonderful special ed team and teachers, and of course, all the beautiful kids and families. Sue's plans after retirement include working in private practice as a family therapist to help heal relationships and hearts, and tutoring kids who struggle to read. She also plans to travel whenever she can, spend time with her family and friends, and of course, her beloved dog, Pablo. Congratulations, Sue. Thank you so much for everything that you've done.
Thank you. At this time, I would ask Dr. Moore and Ms. Cole to please come forward, along with retirees connected to our ancillary staff within the special education department, to gather along the space here behind me. Thank you.
Also, any additional special education staff that haven't been recognized as well. Okay. All right, so I'm going to start by introducing Leah Kalagius. Leah has been a dedicated paraprofessional in Farmington Public Schools for 31 years. She's highly supportive. She is known across the district to be the person to work with teachers, students, other staff members, coach colleagues, even coaching new teachers as they came into the field. She's been an amazing support to our students, and she will be sorely missed. Thank you. And she'll come back and sub. Yeah, it's you. It's you. All right, what can I say about Shelley Cole? A lot. I have a lot to say. Okay. Shelley has been in the field of education for 26 years, and that spanned across 2 states. She started her career in education in Kentucky, moved to Michigan, and was a teacher of students with severe emotional impairments in Waterford, and then landed here in FPS 18 years ago. She's been a teacher consultant at Warner, a district teacher consultant, and then a special ed supervisor. Her strong leadership has impacted thousands of students, families, and staff. Her tireless and endless work ethic has really built the staff here in Farmington Public Schools, and I am incredibly grateful to you. Okay, Pam Brooks. So Pam started her career as a resource teacher, got a counseling degree to learn how to better support her students, and then decided to become a school psychologist. Her work as an instructional leader and a school psychologist here in Farmington Public Schools has really supported the learning of not only students but also staff. I really appreciate your time, Pam, and you'll be missed. Okay, next up is Dr. Jacqueline McDougall. Come on up here. What an honor it is to talk about the award-winning Dr. McDougall. For those of you who don't know, she has been honored as a special education administrator in Oakland County as well as throughout Michigan. She is well known as one of the premier special education administrators. She's been an amazing mentor to so many up-and-coming professionals. She leads with heart and soul, and so I am just really excited to celebrate her retirement with her. And I just always remember that she told me when I first came to this district, you keep the students at the center and everything else will be okay. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Jackie. Okay, and now I get to introduce Sue Smith. Sue Smith has been, she's been in the field of education for 30 years, 25 years in Farmington. She is dedicated to making sure that our young adults, our teenagers and young adults with significant disabilities find their voice and are able to communicate. That is such a need for our students, and she has really been so successful in helping our kids at Visions and at our high school. Thank you, Sue, for all you've done for our kids. Okay, and finally, I have the honor of Introducing Linda Robleski. Linda has been a paraprofessional for 24 years across special education here in Farmington, and most recently in the Autism Spectrum Disorder program. There's never been a student that Linda has shied away from working with. She has such a strong love, care, and connection for our students on the spectrum, and I know that the students at Power really do miss your support. Thank you.
I'm going to do a closing comment. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to do a closing comment and then you can do it. In just a moment, we will be taking a short recess for dismissal if you want to leave. I'm going to wrap up right now. So in closing, thank you to the principals who could be in attendance tonight and share your wonderful, wonderful stories and memories. Thank you to Therese Pickens in the HR department and Jeff Danziger, and a special thanks to the entire school community relations department for making this recognition and this very special evening possible. Thank you to that. To all of our retirees, as you transition into retirement, remember that your impact will forever be etched in the memories of our students here in Farmington Public Schools. Be proud of what you've accomplished and know that you've made a difference in your role in FPS. So congratulations. Dr. Delgado, thank you for this opportunity.
We will now take a short recess so we can congratulate the retirees.
Donald is absent. Oh. Normally he signs.
Have to get your colleagues.
Yeah. Thank you, Zach. Ms. Smith, you join us? Awesome. It's okay. All righty. Thank you, everyone. We will now call this meeting back to, we are calling this meeting back to order. Could we please have quiet in the house? Thank you. All righty. Items from the president. I had a wonderful experience this weekend at the Art on the Grand in the area where they had the student art gallery set up. And I meant to bring the two puppets that I bought from one of our Farmington artists. All sorts of different creative expressions of art, from the puppets to acrylic painting, watercolor painting, jewelry, work with fabric. It was really, really such a treat to see all that they had put together, and to see them having the opportunity to display their artwork along with all of the other professional artists who were present at the art fair. I just wanted to acknowledge that. The Open Meetings Act requires that all of our board meetings be held in public. As a result, our board meetings are the only place and time that we as a collective board can legally work together on district matters. While these board meetings are held in public for transparency, they are not public meetings. Therefore, while you are welcome to attend our board meetings in person or watch them from elsewhere, we must take whatever time we need as a board to address, discuss, and hear presentations on all matters of importance to our work for the district. Further, we, the Farmington Public Schools Board of Education members and our superintendent, have agreed to abide by the following standards of behavior when interacting with one another, both during our board meetings and elsewhere, even when we disagree with one another's point of view. They are as follows: listen actively, no sidebar conversation, respect people and their ideas, presume positive intent, use electronic devices respectfully, and stay engaged. Listen to learn, not to defend. Be brave and be vulnerable. We thank our community members and our fellow board members for abiding by these standards of behavior. I also want to extend gratitude to our board members and those members of the community who joined us for the community dialogue last Tuesday evening. We had a very engaging conversation, and we look forward to following through with more dialogues of that nature going forward into next school year. Items from the Secretary. Ms. Heinrich.
Yes, the board has received communications regarding board correspondence, the diversity conference, the budget, Hillside's Leadership Day, Mental Health Awareness Day at Howard Middle School, and financial educators information. Communications are acknowledged and a response is provided when appropriate. A list of correspondence can be found in the board packet available on the Farmington Public Schools website.
All right, thank you. Next, we have a legislative update.
Thank you. So a few things just to take note of. The governor has signed the repeal of the A through F scoring for schools. And so that has been something I've been talking about for a little bit now. And so that is something that we've seen. We've also seen two bills most recently coming out of the Education Committee and heading to full session. And so a few things just to note there. The first bill looks at, sorry, I just had it pulled up. They're looking at license reciprocity. So reciprocity for certain licenses between states. And so not only that, but it would also allow for teaching certificates from another state, country, or federally recognized Indian tribe. And then that next Senate bill would also do the same for school counselors. So we're looking at, as there's shortages, we have people who are here that have credentials, but that might not match up. And so trying to make sure that there is credentialing around. So I'm going to continue keeping note on that and continue to report back to the board.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next, we have district updates. Dr. Delgado.
Thank you, Dr. Blau. I will be brief this evening since we have several recognitions and presentations, but good evening, just a couple of updates. So I wanted to recognize 66 of our young people, ages kindergarten, or ages 5 or 6 through 10, who participated in the National Academic Math Pentathlon Tournament in Texas. And the 2023 results, we had 66 participants from STEAM, Forest, Gill, and Longacre who competed and received awards for pentathlete, awardee, honorable mention, bronze, silver, and gold medalists, as well as gold medalist Hall of Fame recognition. So these are our young people who choose to pursue an extracurricular in the area of math and to compete not only in a local level or at their school after school as kind of a fun club, but actually compete nationally. And they were down in Leander and Austin, Texas competing, and we're very proud of all of our young people who participated in Math Pentathlon. And then the last thing is that last meeting, I had so many recognitions, I was unable to mention these young authors, but Beechview Elementary, I wanted to recognize our young authors. So students at Beechview spent the better part of the year creating their own novels, and they actually recently published their novels. So I want to just acknowledge, in case they or their parents are watching, Amanda Norman, Autumn Thomas, Brennan Chase, Christian Bradley, Emily Shelton, Robert A. Strop, Juliet Hocking, Caden Bell, Layla Meehan, Liam Reinhart, Liam Stewart, and Tristan Kahakani. These young authors wanted to create a book. They wanted to write their own small novel, and they put in the time and effort and the peer editing that went into it, as well as the illustrations to create that. And I would love next year to maybe have these young authors come back and share, maybe read an excerpt of their book and share that with the Board of Education in our community. So congratulations to our young authors, and congratulations to our young mathletes. So with that, it's my pleasure to bring up to the podium Dr. Lydia Moore, our wonderful new Executive Director of Special Education, who is going to, along with some friends tonight, present a much anticipated social emotional learning update. You know, all year long we've talked about SEL. We've been performing SEL work in schools before SEL was an acronym, but social emotional wellness and the mental health of our students and our staff is obviously increasingly critical in these last couple of years coming out of the COVID pandemic. So we're very pleased to look at a year in review and talk about our SEL update. Dr. Moore.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Delgado and Board of Education. I'm actually not going to stand up here very long because when the board asked for an SEL update, I recognize that the right person to give that update is Ms. Onisha Martin. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Onisha. I will be here to talk about the financial and management sorts of pieces, but Onisha is the heart of our SEL and has the most information to share.
Thank you, Dr. Moore, and thank you, Board, for having me tonight. I will be speaking a little bit about SEL, but I also have some colleagues here because I think it's really important for you guys to hear about the work that's being done at the ground level. So I'm going to go through some things, and then I'm going to have a couple of my colleagues come up and speak, especially to what they're doing in their roles to support the well-being of our students. So a question that I get a lot is, what precisely is SEL? So I wanted to start off with giving you guys that definition. So social emotional learning is the process through which all young people and adults, or just people, acquire and apply the knowledge, skills, and attitudes to develop healthy identities, manage emotions, and achieve personal and collective goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain supportive relationships, and make responsible and caring decisions. And so that is a really expansive definition of SEL. But if you dig down into it, the root of it is social emotional learning are those soft skills that are absolutely critical in making sure that our young people become well-rounded neighbors, colleagues, friends, and significant others. So SEL are those really important skills that help to round off what we're learning in regards to our math and reading and social studies curriculum. And so why is social emotional learning necessary? And I included this picture from CASEL, which is the Collaborative for Academic and Social Emotional Learning, because I think it really gives you the full picture of why social emotional learning is necessary. So at the root of it are these 5 core competencies: self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness. And so these components are really important in the classrooms as well as at the school level. And then it also brings in that whole child perspective of including our families and our caregivers, but also connecting with our communities. So it's important because it connects us to the state's mission of whole child learning, but it also connects us to the district's vision of authenticity, noticing, and positioning. And so if you look at the bottom, you'll see several words that you'll hear in several other presentations. So you see climate and culture, which is something that Mr. Smith speaks about in his DEI presentations. You see instruction, which is something that Ms. Hendrickson and Dr. Kaufman speak about in their presentations. So if you're doing social emotional learning effectively, then you are doing the work of DEI and you are doing the work of effective instruction. So this is just one component of making sure that our students are getting everything that they need in order to be successful. And so we have a large group of people. All of our staff are really working on doing SEL work in their classrooms and throughout the district. But the people who are doing the groundwork are our counselors, psychologists, restorative practice facilitators, and our social workers. And then at the bottom is my role, the mental health program coordinator. And I'll give you a little bit of information about what that actually means. It's a new position in the district this year. But first, I would like to bring up Mrs. Tamika Williams from Power Middle School and Mrs. Erica Som, our general education social worker at Forest Elementary, to speak a little bit about what SEL means and what they do.
Hi, good evening. I'm Erica Som, and I am the SEL social worker at Forest Elementary, serving our K-5 students. I've been in this position for 2 years. Prior to that, I believe that the school had a full-time social worker, which meant that her caseload was split between all of the special ed students in that building, which included ASD rooms and EI. And so our general education students sort of fell through the cracks a little bit. And then there was a part-time person. So when I arrived as a full-time, it was a new beginning. And so what we've been able to do is really focus on, as Onisha said, the whole child and working with all of their emotional needs. One thing that I saw at the beginning of last year when we first were kind of coming back from our COVID experience was many of the children struggled socially. I think that oftentimes they were at home with their siblings, and therefore sibling relationships are different than peer relationships and the expectations that are needed to be a successful student. So what I realized was I had to remind all the students and teachers, teachers, that if you were a second grade teacher, view them as a first grader or even kindergarten. And they were like, oh, that works, right? Their social skills were not up to where we had wanted them to be. So in this year, we've really sort of worked to continue and push that, and I would say now they're more back on track. One thing that we did as a school was we focused on giving students the tools for self-awareness and self-management. So we implemented calming corners in every single one of our classrooms. And so it's a little space in the classroom dedicated, and it has a beanbag or pillows and fidgets and coloring and drawing and a worksheet that they can feel and talk about what they're doing to help them if they're feeling upset. So for the younger kids, we say if you're having a strong feeling, go ahead and self-select the calm corner, or a teacher might encourage you. The older kids up to 5th grade also use them. We were really pleased with the results when we surveyed the kids. We found that over half the students in every room were using them, and it was a mixture of self-selecting and teacher encouragement, and they used a variety of different things, whether it was deep breathing, body movement, coloring, drawing, fidgets, which we call tools, not toys. So they all really found that. And teachers said that they used it as a first line of defense. So it gave them a tool so that they could say, it seems like you're having a rough time, and rather than divert the teacher's attention, and 26 other students now are sort of lost, for one, it gave the teacher a tool, and sometimes the kids could manage it themselves. That was with my support of going into all the classrooms, teaching them how to use it and encouraging them. So that was one thing that we're really successful and proud of that we're going to be continuing on to next year. Within my role, we're able to do classroom lessons, grade level lessons, groups, individual work, and just sort of anything that's needed. If a group of friends are struggling at recess with conflict, then I can do a pop-in lunch or maybe come to that classroom if it's a whole need. So able to meet the needs as they arise rather than when it's scripted. No label is needed, no diagnosis is needed for the services, so it's been really beneficial for parents to be able to reach out, teachers to call, and make that need. I'll just close with one thing that has stuck out for me. It was around winter time, and I'm out and about in the community. I'm a parent of 3 kids in the district, so I'm out in the community, and walked into one of my daughter's dance studio lessons, and there was a student who was there for his sister, And I saw him whispering, and the mom came over and said, he just introduced me to you. He said that you were Mrs. Som. And I was like, okay. And, trying to give my daughter her attention, and she just said, he says you're one of the most important teachers in his building because you teach about feelings and how to solve problems. So to me, the kids are telling us that they need this. We can't expect them to express themselves and manage their feelings by just existing. They need to be taught this, and the kids want it. So that's what's happening at elementary.
Good evening. So my name is Tamika Williams, and I am the Restorative Practices Facilitator at Power Middle School. And as she just spoke, at elementary, it looks a little different in middle school. And this is the age, the coming of age period, where they're trying to learn how to place their feelings, what to do with these emotions that I have, what decisions am I making. And one of the things that we learned too, coming off of the COVID area, is the same thing though, that kids lost that human capacity of just how to interact, how to communicate, how to speak, how to just ask questions, how to share feelings. And so we saw a great need at the middle school level where kids were just not having that safe space to express themselves. And so for 2 years now, we've really been trying to put a push on creating safe, brave spaces for children to talk, working very closely with the school counselors and the social workers, so our whole entire SEL team. And it starts from the beginning, so even bringing in SEL lessons, the teaming model that we have this year in middle school really helps because we're able to go into grade level teams as a SEL team and talk about kids in a way that's supporting them so that the teachers can have the tools as well, and we can have that invitation to come into the classroom. One of the big things that we recently just did at Power is our Mental Health Awareness Day, which was really crafted off of the needs of our student population, our school community. Parent input, but heavily rested on staff and student input. And in the survey that we did with kids, they really liked having that day of, it's a non-academic day. And one of the things that they wrote on the Crush the Stigma card is that school is a stressor for them. So now we have to unpack that. What does that mean for it to be a stressor for you? And so that whole day is culminating with giving them tools to put in their toolbox, because that's what they don't have in middle school. It's either I only have one approach to how I manage my stress or how I deal with problems. And so that whole day was rooted in building tools in your toolbox so that you can be more equipped, because especially at the middle school age, the only thing that they like to go to is that phone. And so we wanted to strengthen their capacity for SEL. So that's a lot what we're doing at Power. I really appreciate having the opportunity to have this role in the middle school, and I love that we have it also in the secondary. And I really see the value in the facilitators, and I would love for an opportunity for our program to grow in that way so that we can put more humans in front of kids and giving them that safe and brave space, because we always tell the kids, no matter what, at least find you one adult, one trusted adult that you can connect with, that you can build a relationship with, that can support you, because every kid does deserve a champion, someone who will root for them. So that's what my role is at Power Middle School.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Williams and Mrs. Som, for speaking to this evening. As you can see, those roles are super important to the growth of our students. Oh, do you have a question? Yeah, yes.
Does every elementary have one social emotional learning teacher?
So, yes, all of our elementary schools do have, and some of them are split roles currently, but all of our elementaries do have some sort of general education, social emotional support in their buildings.
Okay, and then the restorative practice, does every middle school school have that?
Every middle school and high school has a restorative practice facilitator.
Okay. And then what about STEAM, because it's K through 8? Do they have the elementary and the middle school resources there?
Yes, so their social worker is split half-time special ed and half-time general education, and then their restorative practice facilitator spends part of their time at STEAM and part of their time at Farmington Central. Okay. Any other questions? Yes,
I know we have a sensory room over at Forest. Do we have the sensory rooms put in the other buildings, and also, this is a twofer. So, Warner has in their counseling office, can't remember the name of the room. Yes. I don't know who said it, but yes, that's it.
The Zen room.
Do we have one in the other middle schools as well? Because when I went over, I really liked that room.
So I'll start with the sensory room. So every building this year through IDEA funds, so funds, from the federal government for students with special needs, we were able to purchase sensory equipment for our schools. Some schools have a dedicated room, some have dedicated hallway spaces, some have the equipment spread throughout the rooms, but every building got a nice set of sensory equipment. We really worked hard to make sure that our buildings with high levels of students with autism have a really well-equipped sensory room, because we know that that's really important. But it's interesting because those spaces are certainly used by all students, not just students with autism, because what's good for kids with ASD is often good for all kids. As far as the Zen room, I do not believe that every middle school has a Zen room, but again, every middle school has that space, some sort of calming or sensory space. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so we spoke a little bit about the roles of our restorative practice facilitators and our social workers. I just would like to give you an overview of what my role is as the mental health coordinator. So this is a brand new position in the district, and my role is essentially to support the people that support the students. So whether that's administrators or staff, also community. So you'll see a part of the presentation this evening from our community events that we've put on this year in order to support everyone learning social emotional skills to better be able to support the growth of our students. And so I always like to just give some examples of social emotional competencies, because there are actually components that students should be learning within their general education settings. So within those 5 competencies, I gave an example from each grade band of skills that kids should be working on. And so something that's really important is the reason that they put it in bands is so that you're working on it at the appropriate developmental level of the child. And so that might take more than 1 year. You might need a couple of years to help 16-year-olds understand how to analyze the effects of personal tendencies and how they have an effect on their goals of achievement. And it might take a couple of years for kindergartners to understand how to demonstrate the ability to make new friends. So you want to make sure that you're developmentally addressing their needs with within each of those competencies. And then if there's some lagging skills, that's where then we start to work and may possibly move towards that tiered level of increasing the amount of support that they get to close the gap in that learning. And so now we're going to move briefly into what the funding support looks like for SEL in the district, and I'm going to have Dr. Moore come up here and speak to you guys about that.
So I put a couple of funding mechanisms that we've used to increase the social emotional supports, because I believe it was Ms. Som who noted that at one point in time we had maybe one social worker in a building, but split between special education and general education. So not only those required services, but that person would also be supporting the general education as well. So the ESSER funds, which were related to COVID, provided funding for increased SEL staff, and we were able to increase by a total of 9.6 FTE. We also used that funding to purchase some database decision-making software, because we believe, as Ms. Martin pointed out, social emotional learning is not a trend, it's not something new, it really is, development is interconnected. And if you want to see improvements in reading and math and those types of academics, you need to make sure that the whole child's needs are focused, and we need to use data to do that. We did receive state mental health grant funding, which provided some support last year. And then this year we received Oakland County Mental Health Grant, which has provided funding for training, support for some more intensive evaluations when students' needs are needing some highly specialized interventions, and then some resources and programming as well.
So as Dr. Moore just hit on, we have a lot of funding, and we're very gracious for that funding in order to be able to better support our students. So I just listed some things that we have available to support the Tier 1 support of all of our students. So we have some character building happening within our elementary and secondary buildings. At the secondary, specifically at the middle school, they're using the Positivity Project. A couple of our elementary schools are using Leader in Me. And then Kimbrook is currently using Character Strong, which is a character building that incorporates the community aspect into it, which is really, really great. We also have curriculum in order to support the teaching of those skills. So we have Trails to Wellness, which comes from University of Michigan. We have Navigate 360, which is provided through the state funds. We have Quaver SEL, which we use at the elementary level for teaching those skills. We also have Second Step, which is a castle-based curriculum that is used at our elementary level. And then a couple of our buildings are using a curriculum called Calm Classroom, which really integrates those mindfulness practices to help kids to learn how to self-regulate within the classroom with their teachers. And then in regards to mental health and wellness, we have bully prevention lessons, and then we also have mental health awareness events and lessons, as Mrs. Williams spoke about earlier. Oops. Sorry. And so I just wanted to give some examples because this year we had a charge for all of our secondary buildings to have some sort of mental health awareness because we're really trying to make sure that all of our students understand mental health. So to the far left, I have the breakout sessions that Power had for all of their students in their Mental Health Awareness Day. In the middle, I have a picture of Dr. Tamina Shakir from Wayne State presenting to the students at STEAM around mental health and wellness. We actually even were able to have New Oakland, Dr. Phil Pittman, speak to our students, our virtual students, around anxiety and social anxiety, and they really enjoyed that. In the top right is a picture of students meditating during Farmington High School's Mental Health Awareness Day. And in the bottom, North did something really interesting that I appreciated this year. They offered a parent support series. And so each week for the month of May, there was a restorative session around parenting. So the first week was restorative parenting. The second week was the power of pause. The third week was getting back to the basics. And then the fourth week was just doing a listening circle, creating a space for parents to just be able to speak about their experiences of having a student in high school and what their needs were. So really making sure that we were encompassing the whole child. And I was so excited that when Jillian came to me and said, this is what she wanted to do. So I wanted to make sure that I shared that with you guys today. The only building that I wasn't able to get a picture of was East because the presentation was due before their event last Friday. And so I have a couple more pictures on this page. At the top, are some hearts from students at Warner. After their presentation with Dr. Pittman, they had to make an intention of how they were going to do something for themselves this summer that did not involve technology. And so some of them have working out, running, hanging out with their family, doing more reading. And so it was really nice seeing the kids understand that concept of what they need when it comes to stepping away from technology. And then at the bottom, we have a picture of the students at Farmington Central listening to a speaker speak about the stigma around mental health. And so I just wanted to include some of the feedback and engagement from the students because as Mrs. Williams spoke about earlier, this wasn't something that we just put in front of them and they sat and listened to. We wanted to make sure that they actually took something from it. So as I was going around the buildings, I tried to grasp some of the questions and feedback that the students were given because I think that's also important for you guys to hear. So first, a student asked, can you be born with anxiety or depression? And so that really stood out to me because the fact that a sixth grader asked that, they have an awareness of what anxiety is and what depression is, and they're really thinking about what's causing that. The second one, what if you try to talk to someone and they can't help? So students are understanding that there may need to be more people that they talk to. Don't stop the first time that you ask. This third one, it actually really broke my heart. It was from a student at Farmington Central, and they were talking about the impact on your self-esteem when you're struggling with mental health. And he said, I sometimes have a hard time keeping my room clean, which is a really simple thing. Can you imagine how it feels to know you can't do something as simple as clean your room right? Excuse me. But our kids are really, really experiencing these mental health needs. And so, like I said, I wanted to make sure that you guys understood that this is where their thought process is around why we need to make sure we're continuing with our social emotional programming. At Power, they had a violinist come and play and incorporate wellness into it. And so some of the feedback was the music that was played and how he showed we are all different was really impactful. And then I'm sorry you can't see the last one.
Nature walk.
So what it actually says is, sorry, I apologize for this.
It was relieving to see all the problems get crushed, and nature walk was the highlight of the month.
Thank you. So a couple of our buildings also had GLR come in to crush the stigma, which Mrs. Williams just came and spoke about. And so the kids really enjoyed being able to write their problem out on the car and see it get crushed. And so then we did all of these things, but then the last one was the most impactful because it was something simple that we can do at any point in time. She said the nature walk was the highlight of the month. And so just thinking about how impactful it is just to be outside and give that space to be outside is so important. And so how are we building the capacity of our educators? So we in order to focus on the wellness of our students, we have to make sure that we are providing opportunities for learning for our staff. And so trainings that they've gone through was Kevin's Song Conference on Suicide Prevention, Safe Talk training, which all of our paras went through this November, which is another suicide prevention training. We're trying to make sure that all of our staff get that training so that we can better meet the needs of our students. And then assist training is the intervention. What do you do if a child or a person is considering suicide or it may be on the brink of attempting suicide? How do you intervene? We've also sent staff to Parent Cafe trainings, which is a program that incorporates parents in order to understand their needs so that we can better support them. We've had staff go to restorative practices training. And Dr. Williams, can you help me with the last one? I can't see it.
Sure. It says SEL asynchronous learning modules.
Thank you. So I, throughout the year, have created asynchronous learning modules for our staff to be able to access so that they can develop their own social emotional skills. And then also, we've really been working on our collaboration, making sure that our SEL staff are a part of that multi-tiered systems of support so that teachers are able to access the knowledge so that they can support in the classroom before we move forward with more intensive interventions. And then there's also been a very significant focus, my role this year in supporting elementaries, on becoming trauma-informed with our PBIS systems. And so there are 4 areas of trauma-informed PBIS. It is belonging, generosity, mastery, and independence. So this year the focus was really on building that culture of belonging and helping our administrators to understand that there is a lot more to PBIS than we tend to work with.
Could you tell us again what PBIS stands for?
Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports. Thank you. And then the last part is how are we building the capacity of our community? And so I put on a couple of events this school year, and I actually just want to share with you guys the packet that our community received when they came to one of those presentations. So what I shared with you was the stress presentation, and it's an hour and a half, but it's an interactive presentation. It's not just a sit and get where I talk. It's a presentation where they learn about the neuroscience and what's happening in your brain when you're stressed, what's going on in your body when you're stressed. It's giving them examples of things that they can do. And actually throughout the presentation, we practice various strategies. So in addition to the outline of the presentation, you also have the worksheets that we used during that presentation, and then some of the things that they were able to take home. So I really worked to make sure that it was not only informational, but that there were skills that they learned and that there was some debriefing so that they were able to process and be able to remember how to use those skills afterwards. And so I had a parent that was going to attend this evening, but he wasn't able to. So he sent a video, but we can't access the video currently. So I'm so sorry. But as the board, you will have access to the presentation so you can see. But he was just speaking to the impact of being a part of the wellness series, and that he learned a lot, and that the skills that he learned, he's still using after that wellness series. And so he just wanted to make sure that you guys understood that impact, and that he hopes that they will continue. And that's been the feedback from all of the people that have attended that series, and I'm very, very proud of it. And so that's the last that I have for you guys this evening, so I just want to say thank you on behalf of all of our SEL staff. Are there any questions? Yes, ma'am.
It's not a question. Well, it kind of is. I'll be in Lansing tomorrow regarding special ed. Is there any way I can share any of your information?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Do you want me to share it with you directly, like email it to you?
Yes.
Okay.
If that'd be, well, yeah, that'd be fine. Thank you.
And I also forgot to mention, so we offered the adult wellness series both in person and virtually. But obviously people don't, especially in the spring, people don't always have the ability to attend. So once I'm done editing the videos, they will be posted on our website for people to have access to.
Wonderful. Ms. Weems?
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Blau. So thank you for presenting to us. I am so glad that we receive ESSER funding and we're leveraging that for social emotional learning. Our job obviously is to prepare students to be productive, people, and to work towards careers where that's appropriate. And as the leader of a organization responsible for workforce, engaging with hundreds and hundreds of employers, I can tell you the number one thing that I hear complaints about is related to soft skills. It's related to conflict management or conflict resolution. It's related to things that aren't easily teachable, right? We can train folks on a process, we can train folks and teach folks how to do arithmetic, how to read, and all that sort of stuff, but this is the biggest issue facing employers based on my experience. I'm really glad that we're doing that. It's important for a few reasons. Obviously, soft skills is really important. We spend a tremendous amount of time with adults trying to go back and teach them this kind of career readiness type of activities related to soft skills. But most importantly, and you guys touched on this, especially over the pandemic, we've seen some shifts in behaviors. The mental health authorities reported last year for 2022, 16% of teenagers experienced some sort of major depression episode. That's significant. And, I have 3 children, school-age children myself. I see it. I see how children are reacting to things differently, and we're noticing it in stressors, we're noticing it in increased depression, in bullying, in behavioral issues across the nation. And we're seeing it in school violence, right? So this is really, really, really important. It's beyond what is happening at home, because obviously we're seeing an increase in behavioral related, issues that we need to address, because we're not going to be able to move the needle when it comes to the core academics if we're not making children feel safe and if we're not addressing the social emotional learning aspects. So thank you for what you're doing. I'm really glad to see that we're dedicating resources to this and that resources have increased over the past couple of years. I'm not saying that we are where we need to be. I don't know, but I'm glad to see that we're trending in that direction. Thank you for the presentation.
Ms. Heinrich?
Yeah, thank you. This was really helpful and informative, and I really appreciate the fact that you're helping the children, but the families also in the community. Could you just maybe elaborate or expand a little more? Just tell us what kind of support you're giving to the teachers and the staff in the school also. And it's just, I picked up on, you helped them with the children were developmentally, socially behind, but, have you had to give a lot of support to the staff, and how are you doing that, and how is that translating?
So my support varies depending on the staff needs. Sometimes it's going into staff meetings as requested by administrators. Sometimes it might be a staff is experiencing a a significant emotional situation in their life and someone is concerned, and so I get called just to check in. And some of it is just doing things specifically for staff wellness. And so I have some plans on how to expand that for next year. And so staff wellness stems from either doing like our newsletters or doing some of those simple aspects of just helping staff to recognize their own triggers so that they can better address their mental health, so that they can better show up for our students. Did that answer your question fully?
Hang on one moment, Ms. Smith. I wanted to extend a hearty kudos and congratulations to Ms. Tamika Smith for the amazing day-long event that you hosted at Power. I had an opportunity to attend the second half of the day, talk with students, talk with teachers, and just be in the room experiencing some of the activities that were being shared with students. And it's another example of not just talking at the students and telling them, here are some ways to cope with stress, but actually giving them the opportunity to be in those experiences, to try the yoga, to work with puzzles, to use different sorts of tools for reducing anxiety and stress. So really a tremendously positive experience for all involved, me included. So thank you so much. That was a Herculean effort to pull that all together for all of those students, to have them sign up ahead of time and have their individual schedules of what sessions they were going to. So you and your whole team, thank you. Ms. Smith?
When you talk about the bullying, do you talk to the parents about bullying as well? Not so much of them asking you about, have their children been bullied, but to talk to them about if their children are doing the bullying. Because it does start at home. You do have people that can be passive aggressive. Most people think that with a smile, when they talk to you, that it's not a form of bullying. So is there any way have you spoken to children or their parents to let them know, just because you got a smile on your face, it doesn't mean that you're not bullying?
So there's two answers to that. So the first part is, with our second step lessons, there are some home components that are sent with the lessons, just so the parents are able to keep up with what it is that we're teaching. And so we hope that that's an aspect of that level of support, but that is something that I would like to bring to next year's Parent Adult Wellness Series, because that is a part of recognizing how you communicate and the impacts that your communication has with other people. So not yet, but we're getting there.
Yes, I'm just wondering, how do you work with parents to help those parents help their students?
So this year it's primarily been in those adult wellness series, but I can speak to when I was a social worker in a building, and these ladies can also speak to that as well. That's often a part of our conversations when parents come in. So whether it's they're coming in and they're upset because their child is being bullied, or they feel like they're not getting the right level of support with their child. It's really our role to help them to understand what the school can offer, but then also to help connect them to outside resources and build their capacity into what's really needed to support their child.
Yes, Ms. Weems.
Yeah, if you could talk a bit more about the trainings, the professional learnings maybe that we have for staff around the trauma-informed kind of care. I know that it would be helpful for students, and I think you guys are doing this already, to help staff understand or be responsive to or identify triggers, learn de-escalation techniques and those types of things to help with some behavior management in the classroom.
Absolutely. So it started a few years ago. Prior to COVID, we sent all of our social workers to Oakland schools to get trained by Star Commonwealth in those trauma-informed practices. And then once COVID hit, we didn't necessarily make the space for our people to be able to provide those trainings. So we're now trying to get back into that and making sure that all staff are receiving that understanding. And so one component that I'm working towards is doing a whole child series for our staff. And so we do a lot of instruction around what they need to instruct students, but we don't make sure that we're giving the time of what they need to support students. And so that's really my focus of being able to implement some of that professional development next year. This school year, I did do a couple of those asynchronous lessons around equity in SEL, just to kind of help teachers to understand that, as I spoke about earlier, SEL is DEI, is instruction, just to kind of bridge those gaps so that we could get to that space that they're ready for that level of instruction that you're asking about.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you so much for all that you're providing for our students and staff.
Thank you for allowing us this time.
Okay, and I'll go ahead and keep us going. And before I transition to the final district update, just to thank you from me to the entire team, especially to Ms. Martin for her leadership. This was a brand new position without guardrails that she really invented this year and has just hit it out of the park and done an incredible job. And I know there's much more to come for Ms. Martin. So next up, I'd like to introduce Dr. Kelly Kaufman, once again, our wonderful Assistant Superintendent of Strategic Initiatives and Innovation, to talk to us about kind of a year in review, looking at our strategic planning and next steps. Dr. Kaufman.
All right. Good evening. I have a brief update for you. You've heard a lot this year about our progress on our strategic plan. So just wanted to kind of wrap up the year and be able to talk about next steps. So as you know, this year we worked on 6 goal areas. We had committees that were teacher-led, supported by building principals, and involved our entire community. We had a few of our goals that came directly from the results of our equity audit. We had some goals that had been part of the original strategic plan prior to me coming to the district. And then we also began a FPS Futures Committee as a place to really serve as an incubator for innovative ideas for our community. As you know from these areas, you've heard presentations from each of our goal leaders over the course of this year, so you are aware of the many artifacts and pieces of work that has come from our strategic planning process over the last 3 years. And I want to talk about those for a second. The first one was our profile of a lifelong learner, as you can see evidenced here, but really has just been fully embraced within our district this year as we begin to really start to live into our profile and learn more about what this looks like, not only for our students, but for the adults. That process, as you know, was we had stakeholder input and feedback on that. We spent a lot of time with our colleague Laura Hilger from KnowledgeWorks, who facilitated that. The information went to a steering committee in which we made this final decision, and it was brought to the board. We followed the same process now for we are calling our refreshed mission and vision. Again, community input, stakeholder feedback, review of our leadership team, a steering committee that presented to Cabinet a couple of different options for both the vision and the mission. And so there you can see this is kind of our soft launch of our new refreshed mission and vision. When we think about a mission statement is really something that allows us, it serves as a lens for us to think through each and every day as we make decisions. So our mission statement says that we are all safe in this environment as we investigate, as we grow, we express, we reflect, and we innovate. Our vision, you can see there, our vision is something that feels a little bit out of reach and is much more aspirational. So you can see in our vision statement that together, as a diverse community, Farmington Public Schools is committed to provide each and every learner an equitable experience to explore and develop their passions and interests in order to prepare for their future. So these will be rolled out at the beginning of the year next year, but just wanted to provide the information here. And we did share these with the leadership team, and they were just thrilled and felt this really does help set the stage for our future work with our learners. So since we've kind of completed those 6 the work of those committees, what we're doing now is, I think about this as kind of our 2.0. So what we're doing is building upon the work that we've done over the last 3 years. Laura was back with Knowledge Works and facilitated some stakeholder input sessions. We had 3 community sessions, both virtual and in person. We met with all of our teacher leaders. I think 50 or 60 people were able to be there. Our leadership team had 2 hours of providing input, and anyone who participated has had ongoing options for providing input through a Google document that we're gathering emerging themes. What we ask for input and feedback on are these driving categories. So you can see they're still continuing to focus on creating a culture of equity and innovation, supporting leadership and talent development, teaching and learning, health and wellness, future-focused and reinventing learning opportunities, and communication, branding, and messaging. So at each of the input sessions, stakeholders were asked to reflect on each of these driving categories, share what they see as strengths in our current work, what are opportunities for improvement, and then what questions they might have in each of these areas. We're still going through and looking at the themes and seeing what are emerging, but these are the ones that have been present in multiple stakeholder groups across our educators, our leadership team, and our community. So living into the profile of a lifelong learner, professional development, you can also see teaching and learning is there, providing more connections with our community for authentic learning, and also focusing on diversity within our instructional staff, structures for equity and innovation, health and wellness, and then clarity with our communication and our communication systems. So these are, again, just initial emerging themes that we're seeing across all of the feedback from our stakeholders. These are the areas they're saying we would like the district to start to focus on over the next 3 to 5 years. So our next steps is we will take these themes and we'll take those to leadership team. We'll look at these in the summer, or in the summer before school starts, the beginning of the school year. They will also brainstorm possible goals and objectives for us to begin our work. We will follow the same process as we've had in the past with the teacher leadership, principal or administrative support, and community opportunity to be part of each of these goal areas. Anybody that has been part of this in the community can be looking for more information in the fall. We'll send out invitation for people to join a strategic planning committee. Any questions?
Are you going to start hosting them in person? A lot of your committee meetings.
We could certainly consider that. When we did the stakeholder feedback, we offered the in-person. They weren't as well attended as our virtual. I think we get a lot of community members who are able to be there because it's at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and it allows people with families or people who work to be there. So certainly if there was ever an option or people wanted to do that or request, we absolutely would. We just want to get as many people involved as we can.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And that's the end of our district updates.
Fantastic. Ms. Smith, could you please wait to be acknowledged by the chair before speaking? Because that's how we do Robert's rules at our board. Thank you. Next, we have discussion items. First, we have a review of bid package 10A, a recommendation on mechanical and electrical equipment purchasing.
I see Mr. Barth coming up to the mic, fresh off his 5th Meridian Award. If you watch Saturday Night Live, we don't have a smoking jacket for you for hosting 5 times, but we welcome you back to the podium.
Thank you, Dr. Delgado, and good evening, board members. Dr. Blau. I'll keep this relatively brief. We did supply the board with information about this really necessary bid pack. We call it bid pack 10A. what's involved with this. And the reason for this is mechanical equipment still has an awful long lead time. Upwards of a year, if not longer, for some equipment. This is rather large equipment. With me is Aaron Phillips from McCarthy & Smith, who you know. He'll go through the particulars of the bid process and what we did, but really, this is a necessary evil because of the times that we're living in. We have big projects coming up next year, specifically at Warner with mechanical units. So we really need to get a bid out relatively soon just to get those items for next year's construction project. If you don't know what an air handler is and you drive down the street every day and you see these buildings with big gray things on top of the building, that's an air handler. And the reason air handlers are important is they're really the lungs of a building. So they're bringing in fresh air, they're mixing air, they're bringing in cool air, tempered air, they're bringing in fresh air. Really, they're the lungs of a building that do the majority of the work for the building. So these are rather large mechanical units. Part of this bid is tying them to VFDs, which are variable frequency drives. So that saves energy, as well as the ERUs that save energy as well. So this is well thought out and well put together bond team. We don't know of many other districts that are doing this well in advance. We thought of this as something we need to do for next year, just to be ahead of the game. It's also going to save us money if we can order this stuff now and get good bids in. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Aaron, who'll go through the particulars, but we're asking the board to consider this. We'll discuss it, whatever you need to ask and answer. I think we gave enough information in terms of what's involved with the process, but if there's more questions, we're certainly willing to answer them. Again, we got good bids back on this, considering, so we're hoping we can proceed forward and get the equipment ordered for next year.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to acknowledge that we did receive a lot of information. Thank you for that. I had no idea what some of this mechanical equipment was at first, so I appreciate you answering those questions. Appreciate the need for generators, appreciate the need for the air handlers and other mechanical units. I had several questions that I just wanted to make sure everyone kind of knew that we were talking about this stuff and getting our questions answered. One was around equity across buildings, and I appreciate that these are the buildings that we're working on in the next set. And so you had this sort of discussion and review every time we, start reviewing a particular building, so I understand that. I also had some questions about the differences in the mechanical units across the two buildings that we're talking about, which is Warner and Farmington Central, and why we needed more equipment at one building versus another. I understand that now, and just so the rest of the board knows, Warner is a much larger building than the other building is, and Warner does not have a chiller, where I believe that Farmington Central does, which necessitates a bigger unit than would at Farmington Central. I have no idea what this stuff costs. I thought it was relatively expensive, but you guys have obviously gone through a bid process, and that makes sense to me. So thank you for answering all of the questions that I had. And excuse me for my clogged upness. Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay.
Not a good day.
Ms. Heinrich?
Just to clarify, I understand that we have to order them in advance. And so are we purchasing them? Are they making them in advance so that they'll be ready, or they're completing them also? We're just not securing the price. Is that correct? And it's like, where are they going? Like, are they making them and shipping them, or storing them, or are they keeping them there? Or we're just guaranteeing that they're going to be ready when we need them?
All good questions, and good evening, Dr. Delgado, Board of Education. Thanks, John. The whole intent of this preliminary package is so that we can release this equipment in for fabrication. Lead times post-COVID have increased to 40, 50 weeks on some of this equipment. Historically, we would have been at 12 to 14 weeks, and it would have been included in a typical bid package that we'd bring to you in the fall, right? So to get an early jump, to have it for summer of '24, that necessitated this bid package. So to answer your question, yes, this will release what we call submittals. It's the shop drawings and reviews necessary to make sure that the correct material is being fabricated. They'll start in fabrication with the intent of them being shipped out May, June of next year to the contractors' yards, so that when we take ownership of the building for construction, they would then bring it out and we could set the equipment and get it up and running in place in time for next August.
So with the, can I
Yes,
keep asking?
yes,
or-
yes. No, go
Ms.
ahead.
Smith had a question.
Well, why don't you continue what you're asking?
Well, yeah, so are they guaranteed to be done on time, or what happens if they're not done?
We feel confident through post-bid interviews that they'll all be done in the approximated time.
Okay.
Anything else? Anything else, Ms. Heinrich?
No.
Okay. Ms. Smith?
Thank you. My question was, Ms. Weems said, which was bigger at Warner?
Warner is bigger.
Okay, and then Farmington Central is smaller.
Farmington Central is smaller, Warner is bigger, and Warner does not have a chiller, which necessitates a different type of unit than Farmington Central would, which causes Warner's to be more expensive.
Right, gotcha. Thank you. I needed that one because I was like, so thank you. I appreciate it.
I had one more comment.
Yes, Ms.
I just want to take a quick minute to say thank you to you, Mr. Barth, and your team, also Plant Moran Cressa and McCarthy and Smith. I have noticed over the years how thoughtful you guys are, and as a result, we've received better bids, we've spent less money, we've saved more, and I've never seen anybody plan like a year in advance like you guys have been doing, which has just been really, really great for us and really got us to the point where we can get our buildings taken care of in time for school, in time for kids. So thank you for continuing to be, thought leaders. I know that we generally don't like to review and approve something in the same day. We understand the why and appreciate you bringing this forward.
I know that there were also some concerns about the sound, the loudness of some of the new equipment. Could you speak to that for a moment?
The feedback we received from some of the horizontal unit ventilators, they're inherently noisy. What we've found is that previously the older units, probably as they age, may have started, not pushing as much air as they needed to. So thus the reason for the replacement. So the new horizontal unit ventilators are working appropriately. We've done some decimal checks. They fall within range of the sound checks from the factories. I think we looked at that a couple years ago at East Middle School, and with the project team, building committee, and Dr. Delgado, and checked all that out. So it falls within the parameters of what we expect.
Okay, thank you.
Can I add to that? So
Yes.
What our department is doing as well, is we now have 2 technicians on afternoons.
Mr. Barth?
So what we have now is 2 technicians on the afternoons, and what they're doing is going to every classroom in the district and running decibel readings. They're firing with the machines, run just like they would during the day, because they all have HVAC training, so they can set those parameters. But they're going to check every bill and record it, so we know if there's still issues out there that we'll address them.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Any other questions on the board? Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
All right. Our next discussion item is the review of Vision's unlimited furniture purchase recommendation.
And I see our team coming up, including Principal Forster from Visions.
All right. Okay, so I am going to turn it over to 2 people who are much more adept at going through this really exciting project. We're really excited to talk with the board tonight about potential furniture purchase for Visions Unlimited. So I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Moore and Ms. Forster.
So as you are aware, Visions is moving into a new building because we recognize that our student population is growing, and we absolutely are growing out of the current building. As we started in this endeavor of moving into this new building and really designing the space of the new building to be appropriate for our adult learners, because I know, as you're all aware, but others may not be, in Michigan we service students with special education needs, or IEPs, until they graduate or turn 26.
or meet all of their transition needs and exit out. And so for some of our students, they may be with us at Visions from age 18 to age 26. That's 8 years of being an adult in a building that previously had really been designed for elementary age students. And some of the furniture that we currently have at Visions, while some of it is adult size, much of it has been salvaged from across the district, from K-12 buildings, Cloverdale, and the older Visions building. And so I am actually going to turn it over to Ms. Forrester because she has had the opportunity to work with a design company to really design furniture that meets the needs of adults with disabilities, and that is a very unique population.
She's never my friend, so I apologize. So, thank you, please. Thank you. So these are some of the designs from the furniture company that we are working with. And so this Visions, the new Visions, has 4 classrooms for adult learners with autism. Currently, Visions has, old Visions currently has only 2 classrooms, so we're doubling the capacity of our students. These classrooms also have sensory rooms built into the classrooms for students with autism, which would require alternative seating for students as well. Our learners with cognitive challenges, our MOCI classrooms, and our students with severe multiple impairments. Those students are actually individuals who need adult furniture, and they also need furniture that can withstand strong arms and legs, because all of our adult students in Farmington are uniquely strong at the post-secondary adult transition program. We are also increasing the size, the number of classrooms that we have at the new Visions, which is one of the reasons we're moving. This is an example of one of the sensory rooms that we have worked on. Again, I want to stress too, adult-sized beanbags are incredibly challenging to locate. They have to generally be ordered custom-wise for that, along with the alternative seating. This is similar alternative seatings that is being utilized at the high schools currently within Farmington. Our life skills classroom is our classroom for the apartment. That's where we have cooking. We have islands that are recommended for in here because most of our students live in houses that have kitchen islands. And surprisingly, our students ask for, where's the island? This would allow us to have the islands for the students, as well as the leisure seating, as well as tables that are height adjustable. 2 of the tables in this drawing you can see are height adjustable so that they can accommodate larger size wheelchairs, and the students would be able to access them. All of the furniture in this life skills classroom is ADA, within ADA parameters, so that it is useful for students who are standing, who are seated, or who are using wheelchairs and adaptive equipment. This is our Visions Cafe. This is one of the highlights of the new Visions. We don't currently have a cafe, and so this will allow us to no longer need a coffee cart on wheels, but we will have students with alternative seating styles here in the cafe, and that will be new for us. The production room is an area that is very unique right now at Visions. It is all salvaged furniture. I can speak personally to the fact that the tables that we are using in the production room were tables that were used when I was a paraprofessional at Visions. We sand them every year. We re-shellac the top of them so that they are safe for the students to use when it comes to slivers and particle boards and things of that nature. We also paint the bottoms of the tables because they are worn, they rust easily, and we don't want to leave marks on the floor for those students. We also have shelving that has been added. All of our shelving is very, again, it has been refurbished and recycled at Visions currently. The shelving units that will be here are made to handle tools that will be appropriate for our PACE lab utilization. Also, it will hold weight so that our micro-enterprise materials and all of the students' adaptable equipment can be stored safely and securely, and they will be secured to the wall for safety purposes. This is the Visions cafeteria for the students. We're very excited about this because our cafeteria currently has tables that are folding and that were previously used in an elementary building. for Cloverdale. And so this would allow our students to sit comfortably with their knees and feet placed underneath them in a comfortable position. It also will offer them booths to sit in, which is something that you would experience when you go into a restaurant or out into the community. So this allows us to have opportunity to practice with students getting in and out of that type of setting. It also allows our students to mimic what you would see out in a local cafe or a local coffee shop so that we can practice those social skills and have some of those relationships at the table that are appropriate with voice volume and things of that nature, which are all things that we provide instruction in. This is a staff space, so this is the conference room. I can tell you right now that the conference room, I reached out to Dr. Goodrum for her input on this, and the conference room furniture that we currently have at Visions is the newest furniture, and it was donated to us by LOC when LOC refurbished their program several years ago. It is, currently we have seating for 12 in our conference room, and many of our SXI meetings have participants who are generally larger than 20 because of the unique needs of the students and the outside people that we collaborate with. So the conference room would be able to be reconfigured to meet the needs of the meeting that we're having. It is also foldable so that they can be pushed aside and the room can be utilized for other areas. The conference room, I also do want to note, is the size of a MOCI classroom, and that was done intentionally so that as the building expands, if we need to add another classroom, we can utilize that space for that classroom as well. So it will serve a dual purpose. The workspaces for the ancillary staff are just the standard work desks that they're putting in the buildings as they get refurbished. And then the staff lounge also serves as a staff workspace. Our staff work area occupies half of that, so there will be a printer, a copier in there, as well as all of our rolls of paper and office supplies and things of that nature. So part of that is workspace material. The other part is for staff seating. And I think that is our last slide.
So I think it's, again, important to note that as Mrs. Forrester and I were speaking with the folks that we're working with to look at designing the furniture, that we really stressed the fact that we have, this building is for our students with the most significant needs that, again, are adults. And for some of our students, the chairs need to have incredibly strong backs so that when our kids rock, or not our kids, when our young adults rock, they won't break. The durability was incredibly important. And so the tables need to be able to have locking mechanisms that, yes, they can raise up and down for adjustable for like a wheelchair or what have you, but also that if they're pushed, that they have really strong locking mechanisms as well. So it was really designed not only for comfort for our students, but safety as well.
Any questions? Yes, Mr. Rich.
Not a question, just a comment here. There's clearly been a lot of thought and effort put into not only, as was said, it's not just about durability, not just about safety, it's how can we best serve these students, and you can't necessarily do that with, just refurbishing the same stuff over and over and over again. And I'm very excited to see the new furniture in a new building, in creating this whole new environment where we can make sure that our students are best served. And this is just incredible work done by the whole team that put this all together. And so I'm very happy that this is coming to the board.
Yeah, just to piggyback on what Mr. Rich said, my initial reaction, and thank you for explaining, was, why do we need all new furniture? Because we have furniture, but I think you gave a good explanation that it's durable furniture for adults, and historically Visions has bounced all over the district. I just remember, I think since, I've been following it, 3 locations that they've been in. So, to thank our community that we have this bond money to be able to have a permanent home that's right sizing and also available for future growth. So I appreciate that. I did have one question. When you were going through the slides, you had a cafe area and then you had a cafeteria.
Yes, ma'am.
And can you just explain what's the difference between the cafe and the cafeteria? I didn't quite understand that.
So the Visions Cafe is a room that is about the quarter size of a general education classroom. So it has been partitioned off specifically. It will seat approximately 10 students, possibly. It is located off of the cafeteria. The cafeteria will seat our entire student population during 3 rotations. So we have that space. The cafe is intended to be more like a coffee shop area, or previously when Dr. Goodwin was at Visions, we have a juice machine that we used to make healthy snacks for students. It is students supporting students in this area. It is an area to replicate more, of a coffee shop, a Starbucks, something like that. So it gives a little uniqueness to it, and it gives an adult setting for the students for them to practice those skills.
So they're learning.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, it does. We have several work sites within the building. Our cafeteria is a work site. Our food prep for the students' lunches and breakfasts is a work site within the building. And the cafe will also be a work site within the building.
So what does that mean, a work site?
Oh, I'm sorry. It is where students go to practice employment, and they are the ones responsible for doing the food preparation.
Oh, so they prepare the hot lunch?
Yes, that is correct.
Oh, okay. And then the other question that I had was in the living skills area, you talked about the islands.
Yes.
Do they have cook surfaces? Do they cook in those? And do they actually practice skills that they would have in their?
So, yes, this is what we call, it's life skills on here, but we refer to it as the apartment. So the apartment at Visions has a fully servicing kitchen. So it has the stove, the microwave, the oven, the dishwasher, refrigerator. It also has a laundry area where it has a washer and a dryer, along with a sink and food preparation materials. So yes, once a week, as part of the Visions program in their life skills instruction, the students as a class pick a meal that they are going to cook. They go shopping for those food items off of a grocery list. They do cost comparisons with the circulars from the grocery store. They purchase those items, and then they come back during the week. They store all those items appropriately in the refrigerator and the cabinets. And then as a class, they come together and they do the food preparation and they fix a meal, similar to what they would do if they were living independently or they were making their own meals in their home.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I know that at Visions you have the area for the students that prepare the backpacks.
Yes.
Is there an area for them to do that as well?
Excuse me, Ms. Smith. I'm terribly sorry. Yes, as part of our production area, a section in the back of the room is dedicated to the backpack programs. We have tables there for students to do packing. We will have shelving, and we will have, again, the shelves have 450 pounds per shelf within the cabinet. So we will be able to store all of the canned goods as part of the shelving. Currently, we utilize Costco racks that are up against the wall and secured. They won't hold as much weight, and they're not as big as the shelving units that we have on order right now. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes, Ms.
I also had questions about the need for furniture. Appreciate the explanations, the accountant in me has to ask.
Yes.
But what I greatly appreciate is that in addition to all of the reasons that have been mentioned, the fact of the matter is the furniture that was at the old facility had already been passed down multiple times.
Yes, ma'am.
So to move all of that used and reused and gently reused again furniture to a new building didn't make sense, especially when you explain the need for durability. So that makes me feel really good. And I really do love the attention to detail here and making sure that we are being responsive to what our adult learners need. The one question I had was around I don't know what to call it except for the maker space, my favorite space in Visions today, where, the young adults are making the cards and the holiday items. What space is that, and do we need new furnishings for that as well?
So that is our production room here on this drawing. Yes, we call it the PACE Lab, and we also call it the Micro Enterprise.
I got you. It's the Micro Enterprise. That's what it is. Yes. Okay.
So you will see on here that we have the I can't point. Where's my little pointer here? There's my little cursor. These little areas right here are what you see when you go into visions currently in the shop area. So we will have those for the students to work on. We have height adjustable tables, so we won't need to put the tables up on blocks for the students to stand and do working space. We also in this area have, you can see where the cursor is here, this adult privacy spacing, so we can more easily divide the rooms. You know, right now we have temporary spacers in place, and then we have some particle board that we've put up to help divide the classroom, so we can have those two areas being utilized in different capacities during the course of the day.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't remember calling it the production room. I remember the micro enterprise room.
This was part of the designer's work,
Yes,
so.
like it.
Yes.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
And then, Ms. Smith, to readdress your question regarding that, the backpack program is also included in part of this space here against the back. You can't see it on this part of the drawing, but it is there. And then the blue shelving here would be the area where the Pace Lab would be stored. The current Pace Lab shelving that we have is very lightweight plastic, and it is caving in on itself.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you so much.
I really want to thank the board and Dr. Delgado for your support of the Visions updates and for your time tonight in letting us speak and share the information. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we have a review of the proposed 2023-24 budget.
Yes, we do. The next three items pertain to the budget, and Mrs. Jennifer Kaminsky, our Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, and Oakland County School Business Officials Administrator of the Year, just had to say that.
Yes.
She will present the next three items.
All right, well, good evening, and this is the public hearing for our 23-24 budget, as well as the review of the millage rates for next year. So as I presented in March, during the parameters and assumptions, I went over briefly a timeline of when things would be available, that we'd be holding the public budget hearing this evening. And so last Thursday, our budget document, which was on our website on the business page, was available for the community to review, and then it was also included in the board agenda. Also included in the agenda, or with the agenda in the board packet, was the 22-23 second budget amendment revision and details on that, as well as information on the upcoming 23-24 budget and how that's changed from this current year's final amendment. So the focus will be on our 23-24 budget, as this is what the hearing is on. It'll focus on our general fund, the main operating fund of the district. So in the budget document, it includes all funds of the district. But again, we'll focus mainly on general fund. So in the budget document, again, general fund, we have our debt service fund, which is used to collect property taxes to pay for the bonds outstanding each year. And that millage rate is determined annually. We have our special revenue funds, our nutrition services and student activities funds. Capital projects, we added a new building and site fund this year, our 2023. This was for the second issue of our 2020 bond issue. And so those dollars will, we collected them this year. They're included in a second amendment document for the board's review and approval. And then our projected interest and spending for next year. And then we have our internal service fund, which is our benefit stabilization, and that's where we record all of our benefit claims payments for health, dental, vision, LTD, and life. So again, the budget development process, we really start with a budget forecast, and usually after we receive information from the state. So in February, the governor released her budget. and that kind of gave us the first look at what might be possible based on the January revenue estimating conference. The House and Senate did release their budgets in May. Had some similar funding and different per pupil funding increases. Again, we're looking at over the spring timeframe, staffing and enrollment projections. I'm working with HR and instruction to make sure I'm including any necessary adjustments for staffing, working with our people accounting to look at enrollment, and we have those outside enrollment projections that we look at. Again, we're focused on the instructional supports that are needed, those initiatives that I also talked about during that budget parameter and assumption process. So there are lots of innovative programs going on within the district that instruction is working on. Those are included in next year's budget. And then we're looking at what grant funds are available. We did have some additional ones that came on board later this year. So again, everything is on our website. There's the transparency reporting button that has all the information that we're required to provide for the transparency guidelines. And it also takes you to the business office webpage where we have previous year's budgets as well as audits and other information. So really just some information on what our foundation allowance has looked like over the years. And I've started to kind of lop off some of those older years. There was a decrease in 2009-10, but you can see now, the increases were smaller over those middle years, and we're back to a point where we're getting more or, significant funding increases from the state, which is a positive. Again, the cumulative rate of inflation versus those increases in per pupil funding that we've gotten, there's still that gap that has existed over time. And so this year, that gap is over $5,900 per pupil, which, again, is a cumulative amount, but over $50 million worth of difference in revenue over this time span. So overall, our general fund revenues are $171,096,000. We have expenditures totaling $170,571,000. So our revenues are exceeding our expenditures by about $525,000 next year, and that will put our fund balance at an estimate of 20%. So again, we're still at the point where we do not have a finalized budget from the state of Michigan. So we don't know exactly what our foundation allowance is. We've used an estimate of $458, which was the governor's amount. Student enrollment, we were budgeting, or our assumption was to continue with flat enrollment. We have actually increased it by about 100 students. And that's really due to a significant amount of school of choice applications that we received. We received over 220. And so we feel that we will have additional students this upcoming year. So state funds, there are still lots of funding increases that are out there that we did not build into this budget. There were some MIPSERS offset money, as well as special education funding. But there are many, many other funding sources to consider once that budget's finalized. Same thing with the federal funds. Right now, we're in the process of, really spending down those COVID dollars that have been allocated to us. Again, we don't know our actual staffing that's in place. We use estimates. Obviously, you saw the number of retirees this year, and so there's going to be a lot of changes as we move into the next year. Our fuel and utility costs have increased. Estimates for those increases have been factored in. And then again, we have other economic impacts based on current inflationary pressures. So this is the review of the millage rates for next year. And so I will need to read each of these numbers and provide you with the total as part of this hearing. So for our homestead operating millage, the operating portion will be 5.5764. The debt amount will be 3.2 mils, state 6.0 mils, for a total of 14.7764 mils. On non-homestead properties, the operating millage will be 18 mils, debt will be 3.2 mils, and the state will collect 6.0 mils, for a total of 27.2 mils. On our commercial personal property, operating levy will be 11.5764 mils, debt will be 3.2 mils, and the state will be 6.0 mils, for a total of 20.7764 mils. On industrial personal property, the operating amount is 5.5764 mils, debt is 3.2 mils, the state does not collect any millage, so the total will be 8.7764 mils. So moving on to our general fund and an overview of our revenue and expenditures. So you can see the two largest pieces of this pie. They total about 82%. That is state aid and property taxes, and that's what we call the foundation allowance. And so the blue pie is what we receive from the state, with the yellow portion coming directly through property taxes in our community. And all the other revenue sources are the 18%. So again, looking at the foundation allowance, the green and the yellow piece are the property tax portion, with the magenta piece being what's coming through state aid. So we are estimating to collect $11,484 per. Looking at expenditures by object. So again, the two biggest pieces of this pie are salaries and employee benefits. So the blue and the green piece, and they total about 82%, which is typical for an education organization. The other largest piece is purchase services. Looking at expenditures by function, and again, there's about $170.6 million. We have the largest instructional piece at 20%, which is elementary instruction. Middle school is 10%, high school about 12%. And then our other instructional categories, 18%. Those services that help support special education or counseling at 16%, with the majority left in support services. So Office of the Principal, Maintenance and Operations, Transportation. So one thing I did want to point out is we are getting to the point where we're reaching kind of that federal COVID funding cliff. And you've probably heard that term mentioned before. So this chart really depicts the revenues that we've received and spent over time. So starting with 2020, and then you can see, the chart is going up. But actually the highest spike is in this coming year. And we have been spending a lot of dollars in the last really the 2 years. But you can see in 2025, and it's hard to tell on this chart because it's in the dark purple, those dollars fall off. We have to spend them by September 30th of 2024. And one thing that we're not sure of yet, I really haven't heard any communication from any organizations, is will this debt ceiling act that's just been passed, that's talking about taking back unspent COVID dollars impact any of the money that we haven't spent. Now, again, we have it allocated, we have a budget in place, it's been approved, we have staffing that's continued forward. So hopefully, if that's the case, they wouldn't recapture those dollars. So again, in our budget document, we have lots of information about taxable values, tax levy information, kind of some historical information, our bond amortization schedule for all outstanding bonds. We have a 3-year forecast for all funds, actual and projected enrollment, looking at, a few years out, staffing by function, and then our FPS, points of pride. So in looking at the general fund, our 3-year projection out to 26-27 looks fairly positive right now. Our fund balance is within the board's target range for all 3 years that have been forecasted. And obviously, lots of things can change over the next few years and will likely change. So as we get closer, those numbers will be updated. So again, just starting that process early, we'll be talking about these COVID dollars. What are we going to do? We have been having conversations all year, actually, just to try and look at that early. We'll continue those conversations and make sure we either have other grant funding or we have a process to, eliminate anything that we don't feel we should carry forward. The strategic planning process is informing our budget and our work moving forward, and then again, federal. And as I mentioned, the budget document does contain information on all of the funds of the district and a forecast for 3 years out. So just quickly on our 22-23 amendments, or our second amendment, on the general fund. So our second amendment really captures anything large that may occur from what we did in our first amendment. And so right now we've revised our local revenue for property taxes as well as our Medicaid fee-for-service revenue. So we had some adjustments there. The largest change in our second amendment is this revised state revenue. For the one-time MIPSERS payment coming from the state, and that was $7.6 million. So we received a one-time payment. Now with this MIPSERS UAAL money, we also have to record expense. So we have increased our expenditures by that $7.6 million. And so it's currently taken our retirement rate over 50% just to record that one-time amount. We've again not included that in our 23-24 budget as it's one time to the current year. So federal grants, we've also adjusted those based on what we know to date. We've looked at purchase services and supplies, increased those as needed. And then anything else that we know needs to be adjusted in this second amendment. And I just want to say thanks to Kim Pinchek and Carla Swanson in the business office for their help in preparing the budget, and Julie Langdon from School Community Relations, who helped produce our covers and some of the pictures in that. So I can answer any questions.
So really happy to see that our enrollment has stabilized. I'm really happy to see that we maintain a really strong fund balance. I've always felt that was really important since I started on the board. It's significantly increased. It's one of the things I'm most proud of. And I'm happiest that we can both be fiscally responsible and we can take care of our staff, which is what the administration has done with the most recent contract negotiations, which is excellent, restoring our teachers. We obviously know that the ARC process that our HR department has put together to attract, retain, and keep our teachers is really important. And we saw earlier today with the retirements, the amount of knowledge that's kind of gone out the door. The beauty of our district is in our professionals. So I'm really happy that we're able to do that. I'm also happy to see that I've noticed some increases when I take a look at trend rates. I'm looking at 1920, 2021, 22, 23, and so forth and so on. And I do see increases in elementary instruction costs, in middle school instruction costs, and in high school instruction costs. So since COVID, we have increased slightly the number of folks that we have in SEL and in the classroom. So I think that's really important. I'm also seeing increases in added needs, which I assume is where our innovations are and maybe where some of our programming is to address the learning loss. Is that, I just want to confirm that.
Special education.
Okay.
As well as voc ed.
Okay, perfect. I am happy generally to see that a lot of the things that we've been talking about at our retreats and in our board meetings are being reflected in here. So thank you. I know this is a monstrous task, so I appreciate the effort from the business office.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Blau, one other thing, and
Yes,
I would just add this, as the finance chair, I will ask, and not for the next meeting, but sometime during next year, whoever is on the finance committee, I would ask that we start giving some thought to longer term, how we start planning for things like maintenance and buses and things like that. I know that in our forecast for the outer years, we start to flip, right, where we've got today more revenue than expenses, but in the outer years we don't. So I just want to make sure that we're giving some thought and planning for that. So in our next year, I'd recommend that for a task for the finance committee to take on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we have public comment. I'd like to remind everyone that, again, as we stated earlier, our meetings are board meetings held in public, not public meetings. And so we will not be responding to the comments that you share here this evening, but we welcome the opportunity to meet with you on another occasion over coffee or lunch or Zoom to discuss any of the issues that you raised tonight or questions that you have. We are, all of us, open to dialogue in those venues. But the public comment, you will each have an opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. And we'll go ahead and begin with Jessica Philippe. Jessica? Okay, well, we'll see. Maybe Ms. Felice is in the restroom. Mr. Bill Lubbock.
Good evening. I have a number of observations on the budget and the revision of the current year's budget. A lot of material to review in the few days that we had the material. Here are my main points. First of all, I gave you the numbers. Pages 1 and 2 are where the first 3 points are talking about. Farmington Public Schools spent $175 million in '23, which is $32 million more than the prior year. That's a 22% increase. Farmington proposes to spend $170 million in '24, which is $5 million less than the prior year, a 3% decrease. Then we complain about the minor 3% decrease while ignoring the fact that the 2-year increase is $27 million, a windfall in anybody else's book. The fund balance is $34 million. That's $8 million in excess of the district's policy that could be used to improve the quality of our children's education? If not now, when are we going to spend that money? In the face of steady state student counts, the number of staff has been frozen. Our kids will not receive additional face time from teachers to improve their quality of education. In March, the slides for the 24 budget, heads up, included 2 pages listing education initiatives. These pages were dropped from the final budget, leaving no discussion of education initiatives in the budget at all. Very disappointing. Farmington has significant gaps in our kids' literacy and numeracy proficiency. The district does not show a sense of urgency to close these gaps. Some examples: the budget does not identify the number of teachers providing hands-on catch-up instruction to students. How many teachers, how many students are at risk? In a district that trumpets equity, what is being done to close real, long-established learning gaps among subgroups, like African Americans? And is there equity in student proficiency of 33% at Wood Creek Elementary? Well, Forest Elementary is 61% proficient, 33 versus 61%. What school plan, improvement plan is in place to fix Wood Creek? And I gave you this in writing so you can read my last point.
Thank you, Mr. Leboy. Mr. David Villar?
All right. Hello, everyone. So I wanted to first acknowledge the effective social and emotional learning opportunities that you guys have provided today. As it was stated earlier, that is fundamental. Even before we deal with the math and science, the children have to be able to learn to focus, learn to deal with adversity, learn to deal with emotional stress. Unfortunately, our community has not overall appreciated the value of this. And so I suppose part of what will need to happen is, as it was stated earlier in the meeting, community engagement and community education about the significance of social emotional learning and support for students that need it is going to be required. You're probably going to become more aware of this during this public comments period. With that being the case, we do need some metrics. And I understand that this has been, I think, 2 years in the making, but we do need metrics as far as how the social and emotional learning skill sets are improving in certain demographics and certain student, groups. However you want to, divide them, whether by race, age, income level, and so forth. It doesn't matter. What matters is that we find out where the students that need the most support in those areas and how that correlates to their performance in school. Secondarily, we do need to focus now. We focus on some really good initiatives here, but we now need to focus more on nutrition. I think you guys were discussing the nutritional improvements. I believe it was one of the high schools, but I wasn't really privy to that. But we need to do that for the elementary school. It is having an impact. It's hard to measure it. I don't have metrics to measure it, but it's something that needs to be done. And I think that considering the elaborate and very detailed effort that we have with some of the other initiatives, maybe on the next budget, we can include that and look at some nutritional improvements. With that being the case, I just want to end it by saying our community has to be a part of the process, and that will include me, but I'm not critical of what you guys are doing to such a degree that I want to undermine the effort. That being the case, other members of the community need to explain how they are contributing in such a way to improve the process instead of simply being critical, because that criticism undermines the quality of what you guys are doing across the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Villar. Next, we have Mr. Carl Mintz.
All right, so I'm reading for Eugene today because he had to leave, but I do want to just make a brief thing and say that I did enjoy that community thing last Tuesday. It was very good in discussion, and I like doing all that. So, all right, last Tuesday there was a dialogue meeting with the public. There was a concern that our schools lacked a sense of urgency to fix performance problems. There was a talk that the state tests were not a good measure of student capability, while on the other hand, students in Michigan were measured based on the same tests. Thus, bad performance still meant that our performance was bad compared to our peer school systems, and we know Michigan is bad compared to other states. It was noted that a failure was not a failure unless we failed to learn from it. The data showed that there were significant differences between schools, yet no one seems to know why. Data is important as it is the basis for solving problems, and if you don't point out problems, you cannot solve them. We also learned that parents are reluctant to speak out for fear of retribution, real or not. We heard from several people that families are leaving the system because of perceived poor performance. I personally became aware of one family near me who moved because of that. There was a presentation on performance seemingly correlated with poverty across the county. To me, that seemed like a lame excuse, as both my parents grew up in poor families during the Depression. My mother and her 9 siblings were all good students, as was my dad and his 4 brothers. The kids in my neighborhood were not wealthy. However, we academically did as well-off kids in other areas of our Cleveland suburb. Poverty by itself is not a singular factor that drives performance, and overall, Farmington Hills families are not impoverished. Now it's budget time. We know that we have student performance issues. For the budget to be meaningful, we need to have goals or objectives for the schools determined by the board. We learned that phonics was key to improve literacy earlier this year. Do we have adequate funds to implement that program? What are we going to do about our students who are behind? We learned that we don't have enough tutors a few months ago. So does the budget have funds to procure enough tutors? Are the tutors distributed appropriately? Students who are not literate can't be lifelong learners. What other areas in our schools are not up to standards? What about civics and history? What about our advanced academic programs like AP, math, and all that? It's not just academics that are important. Safety, there you go, a learning environment, discipline are important. We need clear objectives for the next school year and a budget that provides the resources. Good.
Thank you, Mr. Mintz. Next, we have Mr. Mark Forche.
Hello, I've been coming to school board meetings since October of 2021, and every school meeting there's plenty of praise, an abundance of praise for people receiving tax money. There's praise and celebration, and aren't they great, which is okay. But in all that time, I've never heard one single word of praise or celebration for taxpayers who provide all this. Without us, all this is impossible. So I'll say it again. Every school board meeting is a celebration of praise of people who receive tax dollars. The people who pay the tax dollars get zero respect, praise, or celebration. So it's something to think about. And also with a $170 million budget, you're floating in a whole lot of water, financial water, and just swimming and having a good time. We're spending a gigantic amount of money per pupil, and we're clearly not getting the results as we've seen many times before. And also, I want to add that there's no one on the board who ever says, oh, we're spending tens of thousands, we're spending hundreds of thousands, we're spending millions. No one ever says, whoa, that's a fortune. We're not spending that. No one does that. So taxpayers have zero representation on the board because the board is a 7-0 monopoly, and tens of thousands of taxpayers in Farmington Hills have zero representation. So this is a really serious problem. There's nothing neutral or nonpartisan about the board. It's completely partisan. And so that's a real area where we need a lot of change.
Thank you, Mr. Forshey. Mr. Thomas Hull?
Good evening. I'm pretty much just want to transmit some information that I was told concerned within the last, let's say, couple of days, and it was with one of it seems like everybody's coming to me with a lot of confidence, as in when they're telling me the type of issues that they can't really tell the board or anybody else without any kind of repercussions or anything like that. But I've received some information in which that the certain, like the teachers and certain employees, they're feeling that certain programs that they're not really understanding. For instance, for the IEPs, that they don't have a grasp understanding that anybody can actually get an IEP, okay, for their children or for their other other people that they feel that's in need of it, although they may not qualify for the testing or something like that. So it's not a understanding that they have, and therefore if they don't understand it, they can't really recommend it to their students. So I think, just for clarity and probably more training, may just in a more open dialogue, I guess, discussion, that everybody's interpreting some of these services that are available in the school district, because they're experiencing, their kids are, just having a hard time maybe adjusting to high school, or, especially with the social emotional learning, which is very important, that they feel that it got to be more than just having flyers from the guidance counselor, but actually to go and even meet with the guidance counselor. A lot of the students have never ever met with the guidance counselor in high school unless they have an issue or a problem. And that needs to change, because most of these kids are invisible, if they're not causing any trouble, in which that a lot of parents, are kind of left out in the wind and say, okay, what do I do? How do I go about it? And they're coming to me, for resources, in which that I say, okay, I can pass the information along and try to get as much information I can back to them. So I think it's just more of an education and curve that's happening here, and which just needs to be addressed more.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Is Jessica Feliz here? Maybe she had to leave. Okay. Is there any further public comment? Any additional public comment? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Thank you all. Next, we have our action items. First,
Dr. Wells?
Yes. Go ahead.
I move that the Board of Education approve bid package number 10A recommendation, mechanical and electrical equipment pre-purchase pricing as outlined in McCarthy and Smith's award recommendation letter in the amount of $846,220 with funds to come from the Capital Projects Building and Site 2020 funds.
Support.
Motion by Ms. Weems, supported by Mr. Rich. Could we have a roll call? Discussion, sorry. Discussion?
Yeah, I only wanted to mention that we received information on this one. We had lots of opportunity to ask questions. Many of us questioned, the cost here and wanted to really understand the differences across the schools. So I appreciate the due diligence here. Thank you for answering the questions. I have nothing further.
Yes. We did spend quite a bit of time, each of us individually, going over these materials. We got them in advance of the board packet so that we could each go over them, and we had opportunities to ask questions in advance, so many of those questions were answered previously, and many of us also mentioned them this evening so that the community would be aware that we are taking the time to do our due diligence and look at the materials and really think carefully about the expenditures. Excuse me. Okay. Now, may we have a roll call?
Yes, Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Weems.
Yes.
Ms. Fox.
Yes.
Mr. Rich.
Yes.
I myself, yes. Mr. Walker is absent. Dr. Blau.
Yes.
6 yes.
Okay. All right. That item passes. Next, we have an approval of the furniture purchase. Yes, Ms. Weems?
Yes, I move that the Board of Education approve the Visions Unlimited furniture purchase as outlined in Workspace Interiors for Office Depot's proposal in the amount not to exceed $525,000 with funds set aside for furniture purchases from the Capital Projects Building and Site 2020 Fund.
Support. Okay. We have a motion by Ms. Weems, and I'm not sure who said support first. I think Mrs. Fox. Ms. Fox, okay. And seconded by Ms. Fox. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I just wanted to make mention again that this is another area where I heard, first of all, myself had lots of questions on whether this was a needed purchase or not, and I also heard my fellow board members ask the same kinds of questions, so I appreciate your due diligence on this as well as the administration's efforts. This is another area where we've asked questions and are not blindly approving matters. Thank you.
Yes, there were lots of questions going back and forth over the past week, because again, this was another case where we were given this information in advance so that we could really have the opportunity to inquire and ask questions and get them answered before this evening. Any other discussion item? Then let's call for a roll call vote.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Weems.
Yes.
Ms. Fox.
Yes.
Mr. Rich.
Yes.
I myself, yes. Mr. Walker is absent. Dr. Blau.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, now we have a recommendation for the approval of the May 16th, 2023 closed session minutes. Yes, Mr. Rich, sorry.
I move that the Board of Education approve the May 16th, 2023 closed session minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Rich, seconded by Ms. Weems. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion passes. Next, the consent agenda. Yes, Ms. Weems.
I move to approve the consent agenda, which includes the approval of minutes for the May 2nd regular meeting, the May 16th special meeting, the May 16th regular meeting, and the May 30th Board Community Dialogue, as well as the Head Start Director's monthly report and personnel items.
Support.
Motion by Ms. Weems, supported by Ms. Heinrich. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Do we have any reports from board representatives this evening? Close to the end of the school year, so I know probably a lot of our responsibilities are coming to a close with regards to our board representation for this school year. Recommendation for future agenda items. Seeing none for now. Go ahead with good and welfare. Any good and welfare?
Yeah, I'm going to apologize in advance. We're going to try to keep this concise, but unfortunately I did miss the last meeting or two, actually, but for good reason. So last week I was at the Mackinac Policy Conference, really great conference, very productive, lots of people there on the same page as it relates to moving our state forward. Lots of good discussion around education and in population growth. So you'll hear more about the state's plans to try to get more people to become attracted to to Michigan. We've got some great universities here that attract lots of students, and we're going to try to retain those. And in particular, educators out of that, so that would be good news.
The scholarship application process closed, so want to thank the Farmington Hills Education Foundation for organizing all of that. The Weems Scholarship was applied to. There were about 40 applications to that, and there were so many great students that we could not just choose one, so we selected two and increased the pot this year. And so congratulations to those students. The Farmington student was recognized last week, and the North Farmington student will be recognized this week, I believe it is. I had the opportunity to go to Disney, which is another reason why I missed one of our board meetings, with about 100+ students. Amazing group of teachers and chaperones and parents and grandparents and children, musicians from North Farmington High School related to the band, the orchestra, the choir, and TV10 got to attend. It performed at Disney Springs, which was awesome. They also got to enjoy 4 days of 4 different parks. No, 5. Yeah, we were there all week. 5 different days, 5 parks, about 80,000 miles. No, I'm kidding. I'm exaggerating a bit. But a lot. I mean, from sun up to sundown, breakfast at 7, we get back to the hotel at 10:30 at night every day. I want to recognize Peggy Babcock, Ian Emerson, Matthew Greenberg, and Sean McGuckin, who were the amazing teacher and professional leaders from Farmington Public Schools who led that trip. Disney's a magical place. I also want to recognize some of the chaperones and lead chaperones in particular. This was a humongous effort to organize all of this, including 2 parent volunteers that volunteered to drive a U-Haul from Michigan to Florida over a 2-day period of time there and back to take all of the equipment for the band and the orchestra. Huge thank you to them. Becky, Cheryl, Susan, and Kristen, and other chaperones, too many to name. But to the 100 students, 100+ students who attended, they rocked. Seriously. I love their personalities, their quirks, how they treated each other. It was a refreshing sort of place to be, despite being tiring. It was super fun. They're phenomenal. Friday we came back, about 8 hours of travel. There were multiple transfers and everything to get, from airports and then a transfer. We ended up getting back to Detroit about well after midnight. 8 hours of travel after a full day at a water park. Okay, so the kids had a full day at a water park, then we traveled for 8 hours. The stewardess on the plane commented when we landed about how well behaved the North Farmington High School kids were. She said they were better behaved than some adults. She actually even called out one of our students and gave him a prize, which was like a 100-pack of biscotti biscuits because he was the best traveler. It was really fun. I was so proud to be, with that group. And I actually wanted to call out a couple of the students by name if their parents or they are watching. Ibram, Sambu, Samantha Weems, Evelyn Dianchi, Casey Sanders, Samantha Jones, Joy Bercia, Allison Birmingham, Paige Deluvio, Sydney Armwood, Marley LaJoyce. Those were the kids that were in my group, so I know their names very well. But there was also Bree, Mila, Anila, Lena, Daniela, Bjorn, Henry, Michaela, Estella, the list goes on and on. I just want them to know that they are amazing, amazing young people. I can't possibly name them all, but they're wonderful. And then finally, to the retirees, we obviously, across this board, have had kids in the district, or if you're like me, still have kids in the district, and know many of these folks personally. This is what really makes our district shine. I'm saddened to see so many over 1,000 years of experience walk out the door, but I know we have really, really good people. I hope that they know how valuable they are and what an impact they've had on so many families, some of which they'll never, ever know. But to me personally, I've got some really good stories of some of the folks that were in the room today, and I just wish them the very best. That's it. Thank you.
Any other good and welfare? I would like to also, go ahead, Mr. Rich.
Thank you. Just a few things. First, just looking at the staff that we had to honor tonight. We had here to honor tonight. It's just incredible. Not only the amount of years in education, but the number of years here in our district, showing that we are a district where people not only want to come and teach, but come and teach for a long time and have their careers here. And just the number of people, you hear the principals, you hear administrators talking about the teachers, and these are all personal relationships that have been built and really create Farmington's finest. It creates our staff, it creates our community that we are trying to have here in Farmington. And that just it shows for all these teachers that have been here some 35 years here in Farmington, making it the best place that it can. And so to all of those teachers who are retiring, congratulations and thank you so much for all that you have done for the many years here in our district, for all of our students, for all of your coworkers and colleagues, and just the impact that you've had. And then lastly, I just wanted to just quickly address, I think a lot of times the community might not understand what all goes in outside of the board meeting, right? The hours of going through board packets, the sending questions ahead of time, because by the time we're here, we are supposed to be conducting the business, right? We are doing the business of the board. We are voting. A lot of the times our questions should be answered ahead of time. And most of the times they are. Sometimes it does take, sometimes something is said that might bring up a new question, but a lot of the times we have enough time with our board packet. We go through that. We have the ability to reach out to the superintendent, who then sends it out to whoever needs to respond. I know Mr. Barth had a lot of emails coming his way this past week, especially on the money, right? We talk about this a lot. And how are we good stewards of the district? How are we good stewards of the taxpayer money? And we talk about that frequently because every decision that we make it impacts how our district is seen, not only internally, but to our community and to others who might be looking to come into our community and to be part of our school district. And so just knowing how much time that goes into it, and how much time all of my colleagues here put into making sure that we come to these meetings well prepared, that by the time that we're seeing these presentations, which are very much in depth, a lot of the times the in-depth nature of that is that a lot of the community members know more, and it's a little bit more about transparency, because all of us have been through these presentations 2 or 3 times on our own, as well as in committee meetings where, if things needed to be figured out first, and sometimes things don't necessarily get through committee on the first try. But by the time it comes to the board meeting, it's expected that a lot of work has gone into it by not only our board members, but members of our district, of our staff and administration, to make it so that it's ready for presentation, for approval. We're not just throwing things on the agenda willy-nilly. And so I just wanted to thank my colleagues, the district staff, for doing all of the work to get us to a point where we are able to run these meetings as what it's supposed to be, which is the board conducting our business.
Thank you so much for clarifying that. Thank you, Mr. Rich. Yes, Ms. Heinrich.
Yeah, just 2 things. I don't want to drag this out too long, but, I talked to a lot of the retirees prior to the presentation, and there was a common theme. I didn't hear anybody counting the days to retirement. It seemed like the teachers were sad to leave our district. And so the administrators, hard shoes to fill. And, they really had rewarding, fulfilling careers here. It's just time and circumstances dictate. So I think that's a credit to our district, and I'm, know that we really work hard to build that culture. And the other thing is I had an opportunity to attend a reflection ceremony at Farmington High School. My family gives a scholarship, the Weems family gives a scholarship. The Warnerettes gave 2 scholarships this year, which was new. But there's so many of our students that really had the opportunity to excel in high school. I mean, there was just a whole program of students that are graduating with honors. Cum laude, summa cum laude, magna cum laude. The whole stage was filled with National Merit Scholarship recognition, and just a lot of excellence and opportunities. And it's so refreshing to see that so many students take advantages of the opportunities available to them. And we provide those opportunities for excellence as they go on to their next, the next step in their life as an adult and responsible citizens. So thank you.
Any other good and welfare? Okay, I have some good and welfare. I had an opportunity to attend the Central Senior Luncheon, and I was thrilled to be able to speak with each of the graduating seniors as we gathered at the luncheon, and I'm so proud of each and every, we are so proud of each and every one of them. They have worked hard, they have come far, and we're very excited for the adventures that await them. And while I won't be able to be at their graduation ceremony later this week, I did have an opportunity to address them at the luncheon, and I thank you for that opportunity. So congratulations to all of our Central graduates. We have graduations coming up this weekend as well. Congratulations. Congratulations to all of our graduates and families. This is an exciting time of life, and while it may in fact be an ending, it is also a new beginning for each of you. And that is true for our retirees as well. And I would like to say to our retiring family members of FPS that, you know, there's a saying that when you save one life, it's as if you've saved the world. And collectively, our colleagues have saved universes upon universes of children, one heart and one child at a time. And for that, we are all eternally grateful. We will miss you, and we wish you well on your next adventures as well. Any other good and well? All right, with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.